fasten your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Chrissie is hilarious.
Chrissie, have you ever heard of the comedian Basha K. Ali?
No, that sounds like something you yell at before you blow up a plane.
30 seconds remaining.
But you know what good thing to say? I dabbled in stand-up or something. I haven't been disrespectful to you at all.
I was very confused by the title, Everything Everywhere All at Once, because that's also what we call it when Ash takes off his shirt. I shouldn't be up here. I should be in school on the other side of the ocean. Hello and welcome. Happy 2023, everyone. I'm going to keep saying that till March. Welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayr podcast. We are on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Rockfin, Rumble, all the places where you can hear fine podcasts. I'm doing some stand-up dates. Very excited to be doing stand-up. I think I'll be doing some more spots in New York City, trying to make the best of living adjacent a progressive hellhole by doing more spots in New York City. But if you're in Rochester, New York, come see me at the beginning of February for DabbleCon. If you're a fan of Stuttering John, Bob Levy, Anthony Cumia, Carl Hamburger, anybody in the Dabbleverse, come on to DabbleCon Friday, February 3rd, Saturday, February 4th in Rochester, New York. Comedy at the Carlson. There'll be a stand-up show, podcast tapings, a meet and greet, and the Dabby Awards. But if warm weather is more your speed, I'll see you in San Diego the last weekend of February, the 24th and 25th at the Mic Drop Comedy Club. I'll be headlining Friday and Saturday night in San Diego. For tickets, go to my website, chrissiemayr.com. And if you want me to perform near you, tag the venue you like on Twitter, tag me, just harass people. That's what we're doing for 2023. We're just going to do full-on harassment techniques. Yes. Also, I want to do a shout out to my wonderful t-shirt provider, flagranttriggers.com. I'm really excited about these, about Flagrant Triggers, because they took me in when I was a t-shirt orphan. Well, really more, I had my t-shirts on TeePublic, and they're like, we don't like this rooting for Putin design. We're going to stop printing your shit. And I was like, wow, I guess I'm leaving you. So I took all my little shirts and left. And luckily, Cam at Flagrant Triggers was like, you know what? I'll host your shirts. And now he's like this based anti-woke t-shirt seller. They also have the X-Ray Girl shirts, the Lila Hart shirts. And I think Gays Against Groomers lost their merch provider. I connected the two of them. I hope they start, maybe they carry their shirts as well. But check them out, flagranttriggers.com. $27, includes shipping. The shirts are super soft. You can do anything in these shirts. Eat, sleep, work out. Really, the sky's the limit. Okay, cool. Great. We're here. I'm so excited for this guest. He is an author. He has a new book out now called Praxeology. I don't even know if that's a real word. I'm going to learn what it means, though. He's a red pill relationship expert guru. He said not to call him a guru, and of course, now I'm calling him a guru. But I'm so excited he's on the show with me here tonight. Rian Stone, hello and welcome.
Rooting for Putin, huh? Just going for it.
I realized all the people that were telling me to simp for Ukraine were the people that were wrong about COVID and the people I just generally don't trust. So I was like, I don't even know what he's about, but I want to piss people off and trigger people. So many people are like, oh, you really? Do you know what he does? And I'm like, I don't care. I just wanted to get that reaction out of you. Like,
fair enough. Hey, it worked. It got me chuckling.
Oh, it's a pun.
It's good. I like it, though. It's catchy. It rhymes. It fits on a t-shirt. It's not overextended. The word's too long. It rolls onto your back.
Yeah, I like the design. It looks like something from the 70s that's like been around.
Hey, nice. And mine, don't eat paint.
Wow, look at our little mug club. Don't eat paint. What's that
Yeah.
from? Just life?
Oh, that's okay. So the red pill thing. There's a story behind everything. A lot of guys, they would take a lot of like the red pill information. Unfortunately, online you don't see a lot of it anymore. You just see marketing. But they would take advice and then they would apply it poorly. Like they wouldn't think about it. They just blindly do things and screw up their lives. And so I made a joke. It's like back in the 40s when kids were licking paint because it had lead on it and tasted sweet. And then the kids had brain disorders and whatever. So like it was the
Did
big
it
warning.
really taste sweet?
Yeah, lead tastes sweet. They used to use it as a sweetener in Rome and it messes people up. But so they eventually put warnings on the paint saying do not eat. And then the joke was it escalated from there so that everything has a warning label so nobody has to think about the consequences of their actions anymore. And so don't eat paint is a lesson saying you have to use your head and you can't just blindly trust somebody on the internet just because they're sounding authoritative. So yeah.
But now I want to try eating paint because I never heard that it was sweet before. I was like, why are all these idiots eating paint chips? Like, what? Why?
I say give it. I mean, what? That's what they want you to think. They
One
put
really
fluoride in the water. They
ingredient?
take lead out of the paint.
Am I gonna have one paint chip and immediately collapse? No, I'll probably be all right.
Your hands go limp, I think. But other than that, and some nerve damage.
Oh,
But I
boy.
mean, you won't die. You might get hyper aggressive. I've heard that.
Okay.
Or that might have been drinking lead paint. Or I mean, not lead paint. The gas.
Okay.
I just dated myself by remembering leaded gasoline.
Yes, leaded and unleaded. Wait, they don't have that anymore?
Oh, I'm in Canada, so they might have gotten rid of it. They got rid of it here. In the States, you might do whatever.
Canadian.
You guys still burn tires on the 4th of July. I don't fucking know.
We do. It's great. And I've decided that I'm going to celebrate January 6th every single year. Like I'm going to have a January 6th tree. I'm going to put out a podium. Somebody had a really funny tweet. Leave out milk and cookies for Ray Epps. I was like, this is a thing. Like I have my my winter hat. And honestly, I wish it was like arm's distance. I would show you guys, but I'll show people tomorrow when it's the actual day. There was a type of winter hat that said Trump on it, and it's like it's a collector's item of January 6th. Like if you were there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I remember I bought one for my mother-in-law, and now
you were there.
Yeah, you kind of like don't want to wear it out much because it's like the January 6th winter hat. It's like I don't know. I feel like they're going to be worth money one day.
Probably. Oh, dude, you want to hear a funny story about Jan 6?
Yes.
I love this. The guys in my chat who know me already know what I'm saying here. So there was this guy. He's like an actual relationship strategist or dating coach. His name was Patrick Stedman. And an absolutely lunatic. Like I had an enema yesterday. Ask me anything. Like Twitter polls and stuff like that.
You had an enema?
No, he did. Not me.
Oh.
Exit only. Exit only. But not that there's anything wrong with that.
Sometimes you need help with an exit. Sometimes you need to wash it down. Sometimes it's basically like gargling for your butt.
Oh, that's excellent then. Thank you. Thank you for
mouthwash.
sharing. Oh, but so his big thing was he was going to move to Poland with his new wife and his brand new baby, 2 weeks old, goes on January 6th to storm the Capitol and live streams it. And he was one of the ones that actually entered into the building with the dude with the horns and that.
One of the cool ones, yeah.
Got arrested for it because he had all this evidence live streamed. And it's just hilarious because this is why if you follow me on Twitter, you know I'm pretty like vicious and jaded and fairly cynical. It's because like these are my peer group. So he's been arrested on that charge. And it's just like every time I hear January 6th, I can't stop thinking about this guy. And it's just hilarious. Like the dating coach arrested for insurgency.
It's so crazy. It's such bullshit that people got arrested for that. Like clearly they just want to make an example of conservatives. They wanted to scare the shit out of us. And it's like it's no more violent than any viral video I've seen of people
it was a flash mob.
looting a CVS. You know what I mean? Like I see
Yeah.
more violent videos every day, more violent than January 6th. So.
But you were smart about it. I don't think you live stream breaking any laws, did you?
I did live stream. Well, actually, the service was so bad I could barely live stream. So I took a lot of videos and photos.
Yeah.
And I ended up not posting a lot of them because I didn't want to like assist in someone else's arrest.
See
So,
there, you're a smart
yeah.
cookie. He's not so smart.
Well,
If you're gonna do this stuff, like the revolution will not be televised. That was like a cautionary thing, not like I don't know. It's just funny because he hated my content because he thought I was too like weird and out of it. But then it's always nice to see people that don't like you getting their just desserts, right?
Yes, it's the best.
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing.
But so what was it like on the ground then when you were there? Was it just like what vibe? Is it the same as like
The vibe was fun. I I did an interview with Megan Kelly, and we were talking about it, like, because we're talking about how the media blew it up, and it's not an accurate depiction of what really happened. And anybody who was there knows that the coverage is complete bullshit, and they're just like trying to blow people up, and like basically like not blow them up, but just they're blowing up the day. They're
I get
exaggerating. And I said from my perspective, it was a pretty chill day. Like I said, and of course that's what the articles, like that's what they decided to take out and be like, Chrissie Mayr said January 6th was pretty chill. And I still maintain
mostly peaceful.
It was chill for me. It was like, honestly, like the energy was magical. It was a real sense of community, of family, of patriotism, of love of country. And it was like honestly like a peaceful, calm, connected energy, you know.
Dude, this sounds just like the convoy protests.
Yeah, I imagine it's like Woodstock, but with less music and shitting on the floor. Just like a nice sense of I mean,
fair.
People probably had to go at some point. It was so cold, and it was like such a great mixture of regular Americans, you know, Chinese women who fled the CCP and were like, could not shut up about warning people about China and the Communist Party, and, you know, war veterans, just like all types of people in the service. You know, you have mishmash. Yeah, you have like Oath Keepers, Proud Boys. And then when you're someone who meets all these,
wait, which one's an Oath Keeper?
They're like I don't know. They're just older. I don't know. I think the difference between a Proud Boy and an Oath Keeper, I feel like, is 20 years. Other than that, I don't really know.
Fair. That's kind of cool.
I don't really know the difference. I just know that they're cool dudes, and they're not assholes. And so it's always really bothered with the way the media is like makes the Proud Boys look like they're all horrible people, and all the Oath Keepers. And that's why I'm like, oh, this is such an inside job. These fucking like they're just trying to screw over regular people that speak out against the bullshit.
Dude, and, I hear you.
You know,
same thing we had here.
Because the convoy, that was really cool. Good for you. And like, especially like by Canadian standards, that was very brave. And
you know, my favorite part of it too, our guys, like, they did garbage disposal. They were shoveling the streets, plowing the streets, all this stuff. They were basically taking over city services. And the joke was that the city was actually better taken care of than when the protest wasn't there.
Wow. It makes sense. Yeah. We were picking up garbage too.
They were feeding the homeless.
Wow.
Yeah, the whole thing. And then, a bunch of and you're like, oh, geez. So I was like, that's why I got the same vibes as what I was seeing out of you guys there. I'm going, okay, wow, so looks like it's a global thing.
Oath Keepers are former military.
Oh.
Yeah. Someone thinks Oath Keepers are LARPers.
Well, if they're former military, they're not LARPers. LARPers aren't your guys'. Our LARPers are reservists. They do it on, like, the weekends.
Right.
And I think you guys, National Guard, is that the equivalent for you guys, or do you have reserves as well?
I don't know.
All right.
I really should look into it. Yeah. You're making me look bad, Ryan. I'm
like, how dare you not know everything?
I'm like, I know all these guys, and you're like, well, what do they do? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, they can tie different knots. They can help you install an air conditioner.
Oh, you had me at knots.
Yeah. So it was really great. It was an amazing experience. I'm so grateful that I was with a friend at the time, because if I wasn't with her, there's a very good chance I would have hopped over a wall. Like, I would have like wanted to get in the mix, and I'd be like, wow, this is fun. I bet I could climb that. I don't see any girls climbing that wall. I could do that. But thank God I was with her, and we were both covering it. We're both being like independent journalists. We're just like getting footage, and I didn't want to leave her because she's very small. So I was glad that I had like somebody to kind of look after, because if it was just me, I would have been like, bah! But I remember the feeling before January 6th. Like, I just remember all I thought was like, I get the sense that I need to buy new sneakers for this. Like, I don't know why. I just felt like I need to have good running shoes for this day. I don't know why I felt that. Like, there was
so it was for like, running, or it was for the drip?
Yeah, I guess going into it, I was like, I have a feeling that I might need to be able to run if I don't know why I felt that way. Maybe people were warning me, or like, oh, it's going to be crazy. And I'm like, well, I had been to a couple other rallies, so they weren't that great. I don't know why I bought, you know what it is? It's any excuse to shop. I was like, I need to get new sneakers for January 6th.
Yeah, new Lululemons, of course. It is possibly a riot. Or whatever.
God, no, I would never spend $90 on yoga pants. That's insane. Anyway, the point of why we're here, Ryan,
Oh,
is
right,
that
right.
you
Sorry.
are. How did you get to be? Because I've been watching a lot of your videos, and you talk about the male female like kind of dating dynamic. Marriage too. Things fall apart.
Yeah.
You talk about it in a way I've never heard anybody else talk about it, and I was a big fan of Kevin Samuels. And your style is so much different from him too, but similar in that you're a red pill, you're honest, you kind of tell it like it is, but you use terms like anxiety. You have an article that you wrote about something called a dread game,
Oh,
hysterical mating, post
hysterical
wall,
bonding.
hysterical bonding. Thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
post wall. I mean, like you use terms that I think are very creative and interesting. So I just want to know, how did you get here?
Oh, dude, that's a long story. So it started when I was in the military, Royal Canadian Navy. We were sailing for like 180 days out of the year. So I couldn't date. I would go to the bar or out and I'd meet a girl and like have a date and like, hey, this date went well. I'd love to talk again. Can we talk again in 3 months? Obviously, get ghosted at that point. So I'm like, okay, I got to learn how to get this like quicker, or I'm just gonna end up dating my hand the rest of my life. And that's when I found like mystery DVDs. This was like 2008 when like the pickup artist stuff was good.
Yes, I remember that guy. He had a lot of interesting hats.
Yeah, and the aviator goggles, all that stuff. LA Magician. So it was fun. I liked it. It kind of gamified dating, and now it was fun. And so I went through all the things, dated girls, circumnavigated the globe on some deployments, and met girls from all over the world there. Then came back and kind of put it aside. I had a girlfriend now. We were doing our own thing, and then hard times hit. It was actually from the military. Through no fault of my own, my unit tried charging me with espionage, which was very weird.
Cool.
Yeah, well, we just caught a spy, this guy Jeffrey Delisle, who was selling stuff to the Russians. So anytime anybody was jaywalking, they assumed he was a spy. So I was just the wrong place, wrong time, incompetent crew. Went through like a year of like hell for that, and I was basically at my lowest point, and the relationship was suffering for that. And then I had found this place called, and you guys have probably heard of, the Red Pill. And I found that, and they were guys that kind of everybody kind of was damaged in their own way. Like things were good, and then things weren't good. Some guys were just always virgins, and they wanted to figure it out. And all these guys came together, and we kind of realized that most guys.
Was this like a Reddit group? Like when
Oh
you
yeah, it
say
was a
I
subreddit.
found the red pill. Okay, it was definitely just a subreddit. Okay.
Yeah, and there was two of them. There was the Red Pill, and then there was the Married Red Pill. Now the Red Pill was where most of the single guys went. Obviously, a lot of bravado, a lot of like nonsense, a lot of posturing. But the Married Red Pill was guys who found that, my wife loved me, my kids loved me, everything was good. So why is it when I fell on hard times, she, went feral on me? Or, why did she cheat? And put our collective heads together, and we kind of figured out ways to get around. I eventually, I fought the law and I won. So that was pretty cool. Eventually retired from the military and that. And this was like 8 years ago. And then it was just guys going through everything. Like, how do you survive and thrive in a dead bedroom? If you get divorced, how do you stop your wife from, what the term is, they call it divorce raping. How do you stop your wife from
raping? You mean
yeah,
like
well, essentially it's like it's an exaggerated hyperbolic term when a girl divorces and then accuses things of like accusing a guy of domestic violence so that way she gets custody because he has to deal with that charge, or excessive payments for child support and that. Yeah, it's pretty.
I understand doing that to somebody, but
oh, that's the thing. Like for some women, they fall out of love, and when they do, they just like end up hating the guy. Now, whether he deserves it or not is not really the case. It was more so just tactically, how do you deal with that situation and come out, not giving yourself Canadian healthcare, if you catch my drift. I have to use
Canadian
the euphemism
healthcare?
now. Well, we got the new terms of service where you can't really cuss or anything, so I have to call it, instead of like euthanasia, you got to call it Canadian healthcare.
That's so funny. That could also be a sex position, like, oh, we did the old Canadian healthcare. It's like
exactly.
A round or something.
And it was just 8 years of that, and it was just listening to reading and watching every guy who had problems, and bringing up for like my Mids Watch series is basically me going through stuff from like 8 years ago till today of every problem you can imagine. Like one of my favorite examples is this guy. His her pen name was Vampire Squid. And she got mad that all of a sudden my husband turned into an asshole and you guys do it. And then we eventually found out he was the guy who would never had any sex at all. And she had tons because she was a model. But then when she hit the wall, they got together and now he feel like he was missing out. And he was taking out his resentment on her. And so then that's a problem to solve. Like, why do you have the resentment? How do you sort it out? Because most people just say, shut up, man up, and get over it, and, respect all women, right? Which it's not helpful. So you kind of have to get through like why he has those insecurities, how he deals with those insecurities, what the wife does to encourage them or discourage them, and then how you move forward. So it's just, I mean, if you do that long enough, you're going to see most guys only have like about 10 problems between the lot of us. And so you just see the same 10 problems over and over again, and you see it solved 8 years ago, and you just remember it every time it comes up again.
What are the same 10 problems?
Oh, I can't number them, but yeah,
Just
for an example.
Name a couple, like enough that you've seen a pattern of.
The easy one is they used to say, like, I used to be alpha male and then slowly became beta, which is guys who get married and then they slowly let their wives nag and wither them away until they become like the shell of the man they used to be. She builds resentment, falls out of love with him, cheats, ends the marriage, right? Another example of this is guys, once they have kids, the girl never really lusted for him anyway. And some people say it's because she went off birth control. It doesn't really matter. But the idea is once she has the kid, her sex drive drops. And then she'll start doing things like putting the kids in the bed as like a cock block, and then she doesn't really like act like she loves her guy. She's not very intimate. They call it touch-averse and stuff like that.
Roommate.
And so like, how do guys deal with that? Sorry, you were saying?
Oh, I was going to say roommates. Like
basically.
You become...
And the worst part isn't that.
I don't know if it's like, I think women have a pattern of, and like, what the fuck do I know? Because I haven't given birth yet, but like you have a kid, you're like, your mom instincts all kick in. And if you're a little bit a martyr to begin with, then you like completely abandon your self-care. You're working out, like looking hot.
Yeah, that's part of it.
You just don't feel sexy anymore. And then you just,
well, it's more than that too. Because some girls, they don't date the man they're attracted to. Like maybe it's baby rabies. Like I really need to have a baby. And so a man who otherwise wouldn't attract him, maybe looks more attractive because he's available and ready. And so once you have the baby with that guy, and it's all subconscious. I'm not saying girls are planning this or anything nefarious. It's all of a sudden like, it's like guys, once you do your money shot, how all of a sudden you get that post-nut clarity. It's like post-nut clarity for women is after the baby. And then she's like, clarity. I'm not turned on by this guy. But they can't just say that because that makes you a bad wife if you're not attracted to your husband. So that's when they start doing the cult of the child stuff. Like, no. Most couples have less sex and it's all about the baby now. And it's their way of like coping with it. So it really is both people having problems. But since we all deal with men, it's like, what do guys do to solve these ones? And sometimes the solution is to leave. Other times there's better things you can do. And there's more... less than ethical decisions you can make on that, but I mean, I'm not going to go there with you. I mean, at that point, we're dealing with some like outliers,
like cheating and stuff.
Yeah, mistresses like and that, but yeah. And there's a way to do that properly too, because a lot of guys. Here's another one of those 10 examples you asked about. Guys who are like extremely big on validation-seeking codependency. And so they always need their wife to validate them. I'm sure you've dated guys that have always wanted you. We were talking about that offline a bit, where they always wanted something from you to validate some insecurity they had. So for a lot of those guys, when they don't get it from their wife, who it's like maybe she's just sick of it. Like, I'm tired of validating you all fucking day. I got a kid now.
Aww.
And the first girl that
need validation all the time. Like,
obviously, but that's the thing. And we're getting into the rabbit hole now because due to environmental changes, technological changes, the death of the nuclear family, all that stuff, divorce, men are being raised as if they're defective women right now.
Yeah.
And so a lot of like the worst traits of women, men are adopting them. And you see the same too, where girl being rated like
women, or if it's like single women, or like the mom is more dominant and the dad's like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, or just not there. And sometimes it's no fault of his own. She just divorced him, doesn't like him, badmouths him. Now the kids in the developmental stage, this is bad parenting strategies where mom will raise the kid, but she only knows female parenting strategies. Guys tend to be rule-based, right? Do this, don't do this, and you'll be fine. And they're generally more emotionally stable. Girls, let's face it, you girls are more, not you, you're great, but, the other ones. More emotional, right? And so maybe they'll have rules, do this, don't do that. But if you had a really bad day at work, or you've had a couple drinks, or that guy you love just dumped you, you might get emotional, and then all those rules go out the window. And so kids get conflicting messages like, watch the TV, get away from me, or don't watch that TV, it'll rot your brain. And they're not learning TV is sometimes good or sometimes bad. They're learning the person with the most power makes the rules. And in this case, the person with the most power is a mom. And as a kid, you have like this instinctive fear of abandonment. And anytime mom is unhappy, it strikes a fear, fight or flight response in you, right?
Wow.
Which, fine, mom does that, so then you go to school. But now there's no men that are teaching. So no men are teaching. So what happens there is a lot of female teachers. And what happens, those similar strategies.
They're activists.
Exactly. So
Gross.
you get a guy, sometimes 18, 19 years old, never had a single male authority figure in his life. All he knows are those female parenting strategies, which, you know, deferring to authority isn't altogether bad, but you really need to balance with more of like a rule and self-autonomy one. And that's why everybody says, you know, mom and dad are better together than apart. But that's the problem now. You get a guy who's only been raised by women, and so he acts like that. And then when he has his existential crisis because he doesn't know what it means to be a man, you're going to get either simps or thugs. And you're seeing perfect examples of this. Every guy is either I paid $3,000 for Amaranth on Twitch so she could tell me I'm great.
And
or you get
those are the ones watching.
Yeah. Oh, you guys are great though. I mean the other ones.
I'm just fucking around. Oh, it's so funny.
And then the other
You're,
example,
so
you get guys like Sneeko,
dead
like
on.
the thug types, who get hyper caricature-ish of masculine, like not actually masculine, more like a cartoon of it, because they have no frame of reference. So they pick up like Rambo and are like, yeah, that sounds good. I'll do that.
Or actual violent thugs, like
Or actual violent thugs. And that was one of the other things. Samuels know this because he learned it. He would have learned from Tony Sotomayor, which is like way before the both of us, where Black America was 10 years behind white America when it came to intergender dynamics. And remember the 90s thug culture? That was largely because of the 80s like single mom, divorcing parent culture. And now white America is experiencing that. And that's why you have goofballs like Taterhead there with his 33 cars being like the epitome of masculinity.
Do you think he looks like a fancy seal?
I think he looks like a buff Neil Strauss, if that makes sense to you.
Okay.
But here,
imagine a seal got into some like a treasure chest and then came up out of it like covered in jewels and bracelets. I think that's what he
actually, I can
looks
see that.
Like he's slick and bald like a seal and slippery, but fancy. Okay.
But he hates me. He fucking hates me,
He
man.
hates you? Why? 'Cause he doesn't do his
Way before
competition?
all of this stuff, we used to beef all the time. Because he would steal a lot of my work, but he would bastardize it and make it sound stupid. And he was such a caricature, and he was making us all look bad. And so we used to get into beefs.
He stole your stuff?
Yeah, but he never used it. Like, you've heard his platitudes where everybody's like, well, some of the stuff he says is good. I'm like, yeah, I know. Take a guess where he got it from. Me and another guy, Rolo Tomasi. But the funny thing was, he went on, somebody gave him like a $5 super chat because he was threatening this other Twitter personality by sending a bunch of people in vans to his house to harass his family. And I called bullshit on that. And then he went on this like 40-minute rant about how I was an asshole. And to this day, it's like my favorite advertisement for my podcast.
Wow.
It looks like a wrestling promo. It's just amazing. But
what
like
was something that he said that you're like, no, that's one of my things. Like, when did you start noticing that pattern?
It's mostly when other people did. Like all the stuff when he talks about men and women are different, basically. I mean,
You're like, I invented that.
well, it's not that I invented it, but the wording he uses, like I have this one, what's the one I always like using? Soft R artistic. Because I don't like saying autistic because like language filters. I'm ruining it for your TOS, by the way. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. I've ruined
And
it.
so like, yeah, little things like that you know nobody else is coming up with, which like, whatever, steal it. It's just ideas. I would rather the ideas get spread. But then he would just take those to be like, you know, you're not a real man unless you own a Bugatti. And I'm just like, oh, for fuck's sakes.
Yeah.
It feels like it's like Carlos Mencia, which would be great, except for he wasn't funny. Which, sorry if he's a friend of yours. I don't know.
No, he's a well-known joke thief.
Yeah. So it's kind of like that same vibe there. But it was just funny. Like a lot of people in the sphere, especially the marketing guys like Sneeko or Fresh and Fit, they all don't like me because I'm very like intolerant to bullshit. And a lot of these guys because you hear this stuff, like the failed parenting strategies. There's real value in there, and learning how to get past this stuff is a big deal. So when I see some guy dancing like a clown,
if you don't recover from maybe you're not talking about this, but if you don't recover from like your whatever childhood patterns or trauma or whatever, like you will repeat that for the rest of your adult life. And that's why women seek out guys that are like their dad, or they seek out the same kind of guy over and over again. They're like, I don't know why I look for assholes. It's like, because your dad's an asshole. You have to heal that.
Exactly. Shit. Oh, dude, one of my favorites. You'll actually love this. I mean, you won't, but like you'll love that other girls would know this. it turns out that one of the big roles of a father in a daughter's life is he's the only man in her life that gives her validation for reasons other than sex. So for a lot of women, you know how that's always like daddy issues is why they're wearing stripper shoes?
Yes.
It's because every other guy, just like ever since you were 13, every guy you've talked to's wanted to sleep with you. So as far as you know, the only incentive you've got is the closer to sex a guy gets, the more validation he gives you. Except for dad, because dad doesn't care.
Wow.
Brothers too, sort of, but mostly dad. And so for girls, like when they act a certain way and dad says to cut it out, and they kind of learn, what do you have to offer? Like, what do you bring to the table? Well, that was your dad's job to show you.
I
And
didn't
so for a
really
lot of guys, they're
get
dating
that.
girls like this who their only agency was their sexuality. And so how do you get them out of that?
Wow.
And that's where you have to teach them to separate intimacy from sexuality. So not everything has to be about sex, but when you do intimate things, you have to because if every time you're intimate, sex comes right afterwards, you're basically encouraging no intimacy without sex. And if there's ever any marital problems, like, you've gained weight or she's gained weight or the baby, postpartum depression, whatever, it basically just kills a relationship dead. Well, on the other hand, though, when you separate intimacy from sexuality, you're essentially filling that role of, and I don't want this to sound creepy, so it's just take it in a good way. Like you take that role of father where you show your wife how best to get validation from you for things other than sex. So
I
you
hear
can
what
end
you're
up
saying.
having a more,
You're saying like intimacy and sex is not the same cup to be filled. They're separate cups that need to be filled independent of one another. That way, like if you can't have sex for whatever reason, you still feel that emotional attachment, and like you're basically this is a pro cuddle agenda you're pushing.
Well, it's better than cuddles, like taking showers together kind of thing, but you don't
Okay.
automatically have to like jerk each other off in there or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, things
That
like
is
that. I guess
so
cuddling's a part of it
interesting.
too.
Like I for sure had I like to say had past tense daddy issues because I've done a lot of like work. But I don't.
Congratulations.
What you're saying is like the dad's job is to give you non-sex validation. But I don't think I really got that. But I got non-sex validation through like achievements in sports, and I think that's what helped like buoy my self-esteem, so I didn't like
see
be
that.
a complete slut. I mean, like
Were you a tomboy then growing up or?
Yeah.
Oh,
I would push my boobs together every day, waiting for them to grow, and they just wouldn't.
my
So I-
sisters would love you. I got 3 horse girl sisters. They would have loved you.
Horse girls.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
I'm from a ranch. I'm like a small town.
Wow, somebody has money.
Oh, it's in Canada. It doesn't count.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we did have money, but it wasn't very good. Most of our stuff was stolen. My stepdads used to chop for the Angels, so it was more like, remember the movie Roadhouse? I was like the kid that Patrick Swayze beat up whose dad owned the town.
I don't understand that reference, but I agree.
Roadhouse, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
When
How do
did
you
it
not
come
know
out?
Roadhouse?
When did it come out?
1987, maybe?
Oh, I wasn't even born yet.
Well, most people weren't, but that's fine. All right, fine. It's Patrick Swayze. Add it to your
Okay.
list. It'll be pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool though. Yeah,
Except for the Roadhouse reference.
it's weird. I both had a tomboy phase, and God, this stuck with me. I remember being like 11 or 12 years old on the diving team because I was a big springboard diver, and I
Cool.
remember a boy coming up to me and being like, you know what, you're gonna be really hot when you get older, and that was like,
Was
I
the
don't know
boy
what-
your age or was the
No, he was
boy...
older. He was like 16 or 17, and I was like, I don't know
Okay.
why it was my first. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird the shit you remember.
Well, I mean, first off, it was a pretty cringe approach. You could have done way better
Very.
than that.
Oh yeah, no, this wasn't someone that like pursued me at all. It just was like an older boy on the diving team.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just really wanted to be good. I was so focused on, like, I think I don't know. It was very much like achievement based self esteem as a kid.
Did you do
But
well? Were you a good diver?
Yeah. I was like 8th in the state or something.
Fucking
then-
kick ass.
It was good. I loved it. I miss it a lot. I have dreams still where I'm like, it's me now in like my current form,
Right?
and I'm like at a meet and I have to like do my full list of dives. I'm like, oh fuck, this isn't gonna go well. Like some dives I could probably still just chuck off now and do reasonably well, but like reverses, inwards, no, it's a death wish now.
It sucks. I have a joke, but you won't understand it. I was gonna.
Tell
Can you
it
do the triple
anyway.
Lindy?
Yes, of course that's
Okay, you know the triple Lindy at
that's
least.
the number one joke that people say when they hear that you're a diver, and they're like, oh, I have a joke for that.
Really? Fair enough.
Yeah.
Must be just
So-
big Robert Downey Jr. fans. I don't know.
Oh yeah. I think he's a vegan now.
Yeah. Oh, I saw that. He's all emaciated. Looks weird.
Don't like it. He's post-wall.
Oh, the wall. That's another. Actually, you know what? That's a big example of the things guys completely screw up. I hate the manosphere and I hate the red pill. Like not the material, but the people. It's like Star Wars. Pretty cool original series, horrible fans, and all the remakes just suck.
True.
Oh,
True
like
on
the wall
remake.
was just supposed to be. It wasn't even for women. It was for guys to understand that men take longer to mature, and then we have like a gradual decline in our age, where girls tend to be way hotter than you'll ever be when you're younger, but it's like, burns twice as hard, half as long. So it was just for you to understand that, if you can hold out and not get married at 20 and you hit like 35, you'll be in your prime and things will be a lot better. And all the girls that used to be too good for you won't. So like, don't let it get to you when 23-year-olds at the bar are acting bitchy. It's just what they're going to do. And then incels took that and ran with it. It's like, yeah, you're going to hit the wall. And that's when the Stefan Molyneux egg carton meme came a thing. And you're like,
Oh my gosh.
it's like you give a guy a brick of gold and he uses it as a club. It's like, what's wrong with you guys?
Everybody ages. Like if you're lucky, everyone will get to I guess the wall is different for everybody, but it's an easy insult that a guy can throw at you.
But and even hitting the wall is not necessarily like, it doesn't mean everybody thinks when you hit the wall it's like a shovel and you're instantly unattractive and nobody wants you, but it's not true. Because think about how many examples people use of like Christine Brinkley or a supermodel, right? That they're like 50 now and they're still smoking hot. It's not that women get unattractive after the wall. It's that they get less attractive than their like 22-year-old self. Which that's what aging is. If you look older,
like a slip and slide. It's like you're slipping along, you're sliding along, and then you slide into the grass, and like you're still going, but it's harder. Going. You have to like it's harder to go. You're like, oh,
that's the best analogy I've ever heard in the history of ever. I love it.
This is still fun. I'm still doing it. It's still summer. We're still
but it was never meant to like just shit on women. That's just something the internet took, and the fact that we got so many celibate guys right now with an internet connection is only making it worse.
Do guys have a wall?
Sort of. You just might never achieve anything. Guys have to become something to be worth a damn. So for most guys, they don't have a wall because they never got high enough to even get that far.
Whoa.
Yeah, if you're just unattractive, you're unattractive. If you're not charming, if you're socially inept, there is no up.
I'm envisioning a lot of failed high jumping attempts. That's what I'm envisioning. Like,
it's more like that guy who was in high school as the nerd, but is still a nerd and still works at that same gas station. That's the male wall. Never even made it to anything. I guess it's more like a pit.
And the male wall, I guess, happens if you just don't try.
Yeah, you don't try, you don't succeed, or peak after high school, you just get fat and lazy and stop caring. It's always like a burden of performance, which a lot of guys get mad at. How come girls get to whatever? Like, I'm sure you've heard the complaint that guys are like, you're just a girl on YouTube. All you have to do is show your tits and you can get 10 times as followers.
Easy mode. Like, it really pisses me off because a lot of my friends are like beautiful YouTubers. Like, oh, you're living life on easy mode. And it's like, if you only knew like what these chicks had to deal with individually, it's like having a pretty face is not guaranteed easy life.
Like, it might be an amplifier, but that's it. For guys, just you have to work and that's it. And that's all you get. Nobody even assumes our cleavage gets us anywhere, which I don't know why I got a lot of guys complain. It's like, you want to be women, right? Like, why can't I have a pretty pass? And you're like, no, wouldn't you rather work and earn for it? You'll appreciate it more. And whether it's true or not is irrelevant, but a guy conceptualizing that makes better choices. And you asked before, is praxeology a real word? And that's kind of what it means. It's a theory of practice, as opposed to like ideology, which is like a system of values. Or philosophy, which is about jerking yourself off about your philosophy degree. So praxeology, like if I tell you the moon is made out of cheese and you go to the gym 3 days a week, then yay, as far as you're concerned, the moon's made out of cheese. It's not a true statement, but it's a useful one. And that's praxeology, the study of practice. It's closer to auto mechanics than science, if that makes sense.
This is a quote from Rollo Tomasi. Ryan Stone once called the red pill praxeology the Chilton Manual. I've never even heard the word Chilton for intersexual dynamics. Chilton Manuals. It sounds like a porn star name.
No, it's for cars. Don't you remember? Like you would buy your make and model a car, and there was a book basically telling you how to take it apart and put it back together.
Sounds like something my dad would like, though.
Probably.
For model and make specific handbooks that auto mechanics use to identify parts and processes to repair cars. Everything about the car, from the smallest lug nut to the biggest engine block. would be detailed in that manual. The Chilton manual doesn't. I'm just envisioning like a black porn star. What is Chilton manual?
Wait, why black?
I don't know. It's just what I'm imagining. Doesn't
Why not
care
a
what you
stepbrother? Isn't that the way it's supposed to be now?
or like he's Dominican.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't care what you think about the car's design, nor does it bother debating how best to repair or drive the vehicle. It only details what the car is. The Chilton manual is a perfect praxeology. Okay, I don't really understand a word that Rolo just said there. But
yeah, I mean, the audience gets it. It's essentially like,
yeah.
I don't,
Practicing.
most self-help guys, I hate this. You know how everybody always tells you what you should do? Like the trad cons online, you should be pregnant barefoot in the kitchen. Like that's how you should live for a good life. Feminists, like you should have a job and do this. Everybody's telling you the shoulds.
Yep.
It's like there's no should. You live your own life. We've never been in the more prosperous and safe time in history to chart your own path. So like, why are you going to let some asshole online tell you how to live your life? Instead, here's all the parts that go together, like we were talking about before, right? Like, this is why girls have daddy issues. This is what guys do to act like defective women. You take all of these pieces like tools and you put them together in a way that solves your problems and gets you closer to what you want in life.
Wow.
And that's good. That way there's like,
useful.
you don't, yeah. And that's why Allie and I get along, even though she's like, I'm getting married young. I'm going to have babies. I'm dating an older man. And me, like my girl and I, we're common law married. We've been together for 19 years, but common law married for like 13 now. And we don't do the trad thing. She works, I work. But we still get along because there's like, we both have different what we want, but the how is still the same. The same rules for attraction apply. The same things that her husband does with her, I do with my wife, and vice versa. And it just works. So it's like a universal tool that can help you as long as you have a pathway you want to go to in life. And I really do want guys to like benefit from it because I benefited hugely. And so and that's why I just hate when I see Tater Tot running his stupid mouth, man, because it just embarrasses everybody.
It's not about like telling like, oh, the way to be a successful man or woman is to be this one way, which doesn't fit for a lot of people.
No.
And it's so frustrating for women to hear like, yeah, I would love not to work. I would love to be trad and just baking cookies all day, but like, we don't make enough money for that. So it's like you get tired of hearing that. Like, okay, that's not like realistic for most people. Like,
yeah, some girls just get bored with being a stay-at-home and they hate it. They want something to do. And so it's either that or, sleep at the pool boy. So have get a job.
Yeah. Or just keep the pool covered.
Or Pete, yeah, well, you can do that too. But that's the point. You do what you want out of it.
We're filling in the pool. I want to take any chances.
Why? Because I'm tired of the dicks, Susan. I like it. I just like seeing other people doing stuff. And that's why I get why the red pill, same as like in January 6th, you guys got such a bad rap for just what was essentially like a patriotic barbecue, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Red pill was kind of the same thing.
There were kids. There were dogs in costume. It was a sense of camaraderie.
Do you have a dog, or was it somebody else's dogs?
No, I didn't bring my dogs to the thing.
What dogs do you have?
I'm not gonna take them on a train to DC. A mini golden doodle. That's Muffin. She's 35 pounds, and a Cavapoo, and that's Waffles. She's 25 pounds.
Look at you go. You got some big boys. I got 3 Italian Greyhounds, 13 to 17 pounds.
Oh, they're so prancy and small and light.
Yeah, super light. They sleep behind me all day. It's awesome. I'm gonna set up like a dogger
neck
cam.
Pillows, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and they look like an H.R. Geiger painting. The aliens. Because they got that
Muffin
weird waffly back.
She actually has a human soul. Like I actually wonder sometimes if like my mom died and was like her soul went into this dog because she sometimes.
Why was she nagging you when you didn't do the dishes, or?
No, but she will put her paw on me a lot and like just look into my soul. And I'm like, fuck.
Dude, I hate that stuff. It's always like when you're trying to sleep, but they look so adorable, you can't like get mad at them.
Like I'll just not do tasks because I like see them on the bed looking cute. I'm like, I have to cuddle you. Like,
yeah,
but I have things to do. Anyway, dogs are great. So, what qualifies you of all the guys giving advice in this sphere, in this world?
I don't play the authority thing. Honestly, I go out of my way not to, like, I don't ever want to portray myself as like an alpha male or any of that crap or expertise or qualifications. I just say, there's the material. Try some stuff out. If it works for you, that's great. If not, I wouldn't listen to me. So I make no claims of expertise. It's literally all about the information. In fact, I go out of my way to like avoid all those hallmarks. I drink IPAs. I eat seed oils. I don't care. You don't need any of that shit.
What do you think of Jack Murphy?
Had he listened to me, he'd be far better off today than he was. I met him
Wow.
2018 when I first like went IRL with this, doing conventions, and there's a whole other fucking gong show of a story. So I met him, and he was talking about how he wanted to do he didn't really know much about the space. He's like, I'm going to write a history book for this place. And I go, you mean like Ian Ironwood's Manosphere? And he goes, what? I'm like, yeah, he wrote that book like 7 years ago. You didn't know? He goes, no. I'm like, all right. So I get where he's at. But he was talking about the Cuck article. I'm sure you've heard of it. That's why everybody knows him now.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, it's kind of sucks because like everybody keeps throwing it up on my face. I'm like, look, man,
Embrace
you were
it.
married. He goes, yeah, you had a kid. Yeah, you raised the kids. They're teenagers now. You've done the dad thing and you got punished for it, right? He goes, yeah. I go, so you've done your pound of flesh, queen and country, whatever. If you want to live like a bit of a degenerate, that's nobody's fault. That's like nobody's business but yours. If somebody pokes fun at you for it, just laugh it off. It's like, why are you so interested in my dick? And then, of course, what advice did he take? Not that. He decided to yell at Sydney Watson, which on like a Mormon trad thing there, he's like, I'm going to yell at the wee little girl as this giant bearded man.
He just let himself be triggered instead of if he were just chill, you know.
You can admit it. You can just say it's none of your business. You could say I'm not that person. Like there's all kinds of ways you could roll that, but I guess he had an insecurity about it, which was kind of annoying.
Yeah.
But I mean, whatever. Why would like I said, I'm not an expert. He had been around longer than me at the time. I wouldn't have listened to me either, even though it was right. But as far as what I think of him, the part that annoys me, and it's part that annoys me about most people, is that they're good at marketing. Like he was able to get on Tim Pool with just sheer charisma and the beard and wrote that book, but he doesn't know anything. And that's what gets me. So many of these guys know how to market, but they never bother to look into what they're actually talking about. And so that's the only expertise I provide, is that I'm really just about the material. And if I am doing any clown shit, like where you see me goofing around shit posting on Twitter, it's mostly just because you need to get attention to get known. But everybody knows I hate doing it. I hold my nose up.
Ever try to grow a beard?
I can grow a beard. I grow a decent beard. I look like a homeless man's the problem. And it's turning gray now.
Wow. Yeah, I felt.
And my mustache doesn't connect in the middle. I get like the Salvador Dali handlebars.
Oh, right. You look like an artist. That's cool. Yeah, I felt
was an
bad
artist,
for
though.
him.
For
Oh,
the military.
really?
Yeah.
What did you do?
Graphic design, but I also did like painting on freelancing at the spare time. But that was wild. That was a long time ago. But case in point, the cover design and the desktop publishing of the book, I've done all that.
Oh, cool.
So it's finally I get to get back into art, which is nice.
That's nice.
And I
You're
can.
a jack off all trades.
Jack of all I like that. But dude, that was the best date spot. Take a girl to a museum, and then she would just watch me get all excited about like Norman Rockwell paintings and that, and Jasper Johns. Like girls didn't really care about art, but they liked that I was excited about it. So
that's a great first date move. Like, I'm into art. Let's fuck. Okay. We're getting
no, it's you got to come back to my place and I got to feed my fish, and you come back. It's like while you're there, it just happened.
Feeding the fish. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what we're calling it now. That's what they call it in Canada.
It's like it's like you want to come up for a coffee. You just need to come up with a reason that's not like, hey, whore, do you want to fuck? And you're like, they're not going to go for that.
Yeah.
You want to make her feel special, right?
You get up there and she's like, you don't even have fish.
Yeah.
Okay. So you did that. Okay. I want to make sure we're like in the right linear so you get out of the service, you've written like what 2 or 3 books at this point, all at the same time. You're like getting involved on like the red pill communities, and then you start doing these like basically like events, conventions.
Before that, I was actually after the military, but before the writing and all that, I was working in finance and information security. I was doing corporate work, the 6-figure salary stuff that all the alpha males do. And after like 5-6 years of that, I just really wasn't liking it. And that's when I started to do this stuff.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I worked for a hedge fund, but as a secretary.
Poor bastard.
It was right when it was fun. It was like pre-economic collapse. So we had like one trip. They flew out the New York office and the London office to the Virgin Gorda Islands on this huge yacht. And like but guys were jumping off the yacht in their suits. Like they were drinking a ton. Like it was fun. And then like my biggest regret is that I did not jump off the yacht in my dress. Like I went to like one of the lady that was in charge of HR. I was like, ooh, like I kind of want to jump off, like because all these guys are jumping off in their suits, and she's like, no, the girls don't really jump off. And I was I'm like so annoyed that I didn't do it.
The one regret in life, huh?
Yes, that's my one regret. Is I had the chance to jump off a yacht in a formal dress and I didn't do it.
See, that's funny. This would have been what, 2007-ish?
8, yeah.
2008? I was
was it
deployed at the time
Yeah,
hunting pirates in Somalia. In Italy, we had a dive-X, and I was jumping off the warship with the guys all drunk.
There you go.
Dive Brothers.
Fun.
This what it's
Yeah.
like when doves cry.
Okay, that's so fun. You've done so many things. Okay.
Yeah.
And what made you realize like, oh, I've learned some things about the sort of like dating dynamics, man-woman stuff. Like when did you start putting it together?
Once people started paying me $500 an hour to consult them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I did that for about a year, and I didn't like it because I hated having to repeat the same thing every day to the same guys, and maybe 10% of them would actually do anything about it. Most guys just wanted a shoulder to cry on, and it gets depressing. And that's when I thought, well, at this point, I might as well just write a book, start a YouTube channel, so that way I only have to say it once, and then everybody can get it, and they don't have to take the advice. I'm paid either way, so I don't have to cry myself to sleep because men are a lost cause, you know?
I like a lot of your videos. Like you'll read like a long email from somebody, and then you'll give like very detailed, like specific advice, which to me sounds very helpful.
Yeah.
Like you go into their like specific, like some of the stuff you were reading, like all the backstory on like the girl, them, how their problems, like the sequence of the issues they had.
The field reports.
Yeah, the field report.
And that's the thing. Like teaching a guy how to write those is a skill too, because it was something I learned when I was consulting. There's one guy, he was a military surgeon. His wife cheated on him with a soccer coach, and he was trying to win her back. And one of the first things I do is like get him to explain the problem. And the guy had never had to write down or say what was actually happening. It was all just in his head, and he actually broke down crying. And it turns out, for a lot of guys,
a therapist.
Well, I'm better than a therapist because I don't give you drugs. I'm not Tom Cruise. I'm just saying. But yeah, for a lot of guys, just actually having to articulate this is something they've never had to do because your brain always hand waves stuff away so you feel better. And then from that, we kind of learned that, okay, the way you write things down teaches you. Like some guys, when they write about their problems, it's all about, oh, she did this, she did that. Like they can't even describe their own life from their own perspective. They use their wife as like the protagonist. And so right there, you can tell it's like a validation issue. And so you get him to rephrase the whole thing from his own perspective. And it turns out writing affects thinking. So by the guy changing the perspective from his wife's perspective to his own, he all of a sudden notices some glaring problems with how he acts and learns how to fix that. And so between that and another concept that I've borrowed from Venkatesh Rao, from the Air Force, he got it called OODA loops. Something, observe, orient, decide, act. And so that's why these things are very detailed. So you get the guy to observe his situation and orient himself towards the kind of solution he wants, then decide on a course of action. That's usually the collaborative part of it. And then he acts on it. And then after he acts, he observes the act that it had. And that's where these field reports kind of, the faster you're able to make the changes and rewrite field reports on the event, the easier you're able to not just fix and solve your problems, but to internalize the concepts that get you there. So that way you don't have to come running for help every time something happens. You just intuitively understand how to deal with things, like something simple, like your wife yells at you. Some guys just buckle. And then you learn that. So now when his wife's crying at you, he knows how to handle that too, because it's a similar process. God, I'm stealing all your airtime. I really have to apologize.
So is it more like you teach a guy to think like, what is my part in this problem, basically? Like, what is my piece in all this, instead of like, this is being done to me, like my wife or girlfriend is doing this to me.
Oh yeah, none of that victim shit. And no blame or fault either. That's the other thing. A lot of guys, they just want to hear that it's their wife's fault. A lot of wives want to hear it's their husband's fault too, but I'm like, fault is for like children and chicks.
Who
like,
does that help? Yeah, like
it doesn't help. And same thing with blame. Okay, it's her fault, but it's still your problem to fix. So you got to, and I hate it. It's Peterson sounding, but yeah, you got to take responsibility for it, because let's face it, you're the only guy. What's that?
You got to make your bed.
Yeah, make your bed, bucko.
You got to make your bed, bucko.
But like, you're the only guy who wipes your ass every day without complaint. It's like, treat that guy better, like he deserves it,
Interesting.
Yeah, I miss original clinical psychologist Peterson, because this new Peterson is just kind of
really.
It's almost like somebody's wearing him like a skin suit,
How has Jordan Peterson changed in your mind? I haven't noticed it.
I knew him way back. So when I first started writing my first book, I had reached out to him and he had sent me his writing guide he would use for his students. This is before the Bill C11 trans pronouns thing, right? So this is when he was just another instructor in University of Toronto, just lives up the road. And so he helped me learn because the military, my writing style was incomprehensible. I had to do what they're called ACP 127 format messages. It's essentially like speaking and writing as if it was binary code. So it's just ridiculous. So I was basically illiterate. And he gave me this guide to writing, and that's what got me started. And then, I wrote like 100 articles and essays later, and then eventually it came through with a somewhat coherent book. And so that's the one I remember, who had like 500 videos of just him doing his psychological practice and lectures. And then all of a sudden, I feel like a hipster, because like, I knew him before you got mad at the trans pronouns.
Yeah, you knew him before he was cool.
Yeah, and then that stuff happened, and then obviously fame got to him, and I can tell, like, there's a big thing he did where he loved his audience too much. And the problem with the audience is his audience was there to learn, so when they're driving his content, they don't know what they want to learn, and he should have taken a leadership role, but instead he's like, he wants to help them, and he likes them, and so they push him into one corner, which made him kind of angry. You kind of see it now even, with the anonymous stuff. And then between that and his wife getting sick and the daughter doing whatever it is she
got
did,
really sick. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he ended up on the drugs there for the prescription drugs. He literally listened to doctors saying, "Here, this will make you feel better." It almost killed him. And it's just never struck me as being the same. And it's very, like, I to this day, I'll tell people, like, hate your audience just a little bit, right? Because you can't have them driving the ship. Not your guys. Your guys are great, and girls. They're awesome.
I know what you mean. Like sometimes, like on Simcast, because we'll get a lot of super chats, which
wonderful
is
name for a cast, by the way.
Amazing, thank you. Some people get very triggered by like, "Oh, I'm not a simp. I'm not gonna watch this show. I'm not a simp." And it's like, it's okay. It's tongue in cheek. Like we simp. I simp for the audience. I simp for the girls. Like we all simp for each other. Everyone calm down. But sometimes when there are like a lot of super chats, I get annoyed. Like, okay, now we're just answering these questions and comments rather than like talking about themes, or it does feel like, okay, we're not steering the show anymore. But I mean, that's part of it. It's like, it's, the idea is to like address the super chats while they're on topic, so you don't feel like you're just jumping around.
It's a skill. It's an art form, man.
Yeah, that's so neat. Okay, so you knew Jordan Peterson before he was cool. You feel like fame and success got to him, or he changed.
The sphere is a very small space. You'd be surprised how many people know people before, but then when they get big, everything goes weird. I knew Jack before he let his girlfriend get railed by that dude.
Oh,
you know what the worst part is in that article too? Like, nobody read it. Everybody just saw the title. Do you know why he did that?
Like a deep down insecurity?
No, well, sort of. They call it one-itis, where you're like, unhealthily infatuated and worried about losing a girl, and then that scarcity makes you act a little more codependent, and it's just self-sabotaging. So he's like, my plan, and Tate did the same thing. My plan then is, so I get rid of this one-itis, is I get her on a date to go have sex with some dude, so now I don't have to worry about jealousy because the worst just happened. So I kind of understand the idea. Like, there was a much better way to handle it, in my opinion, but I mean, kudos for trying.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. And Tate was saying the same thing around the same time, how you don't know one-itis for a girl unless you whore her on camera. And I thought, that's a way to do it, I suppose. I offer you a much better way that's a lot less, I guess, lucrative. It's the kindest word I can use.
Really?
But yeah, and then Sneeko, same thing. A lot of these guys, for some reason, have this issue with they don't want to be thought of as a simp, and so they go the complete other direction and, like, pass their girl around for whatever reason, and it's just fucking weird, man.
Why? I don't understand that, because the more you're passed around, it's like the more likely you are to leave that person, because the more likely you are to like chemically, emotionally bond with somebody else.
Does this strike you as a well thought out plan, though?
No.
Really? Guys, I've done the math. It works. Trust me.
It does? Okay.
No, of course they didn't. It sounded like a good idea, and then like a virus, one tard says something, and then the other tards are like, well, it worked for him. He's on Tim Pool, so let's try it too. And then all that stuff blow up, so. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, it sucks, man. Tim Pool's like, I got a regular guest, and they're like, oh, yeah? Damn it.
I wish so badly, like I had met him, God, I forget when, maybe it was October of 2020 or 2021, whenever, like, before it all went down. I went to one of his like
Surprisingly,
brunches.
like introverted, isn't he? Well,
Um,
he was for me.
he was a very nice guy. A little bit of like you're hosting a party, so a little bit of this like performative like
Oh,
outgoingness, but that's like anytime you're hosting an event, you
yeah.
have to
When he
kind of be
drops that, he's
you ha-
very calm
you have
and
to be
quiet and
on.
reserved.
Yeah, I liked him a lot, and I wish that after it all happened, like I said to him, like, you should come on the show because I've had him on a couple of times. Like, you should come on. We should go through all the memes together. You can rate them. Like, you
Oh,
let's go
Jesus.
through all the jokes. Like, let's like come on. Like, you have to make fun of yourself. You have to endear yourself to people, and like that's like part of your comeback.
I'm
Just to
guessing he didn't like your advice.
no, he did not follow any of my advice. I was like, there's so many. Come on, there's so
Just watching
funny.
you walk into that, I'm like, oh dear. Oh my.
Can't we have a sense of humor about our failures and foibles? I don't know.
No, he was told. I told him that 2 years before. He didn't listen then. He's not going to listen now. It sucks. Oh well.
Oh well.
Yeah, unforced errors. That really sucks. That's another thing. I actually personally, I kind of like watching other people fail publicly, mostly because then I get to learn what not to do, which I guess is a weird, like a Voltric way of thinking about it. But I'm like,
Well, everyone like life is gonna serve you up the same lesson over and over until you learn it. So
Yeah.
it's to the degree to which you fail miserably is like the degree to which you ignored the lesson previously.
And most guys ignore it. Most guys' egos are too strong. They refuse to admit it because that means I'm a failure. I did something wrong. And they just want to be told they're right. That's why most strippers say, yeah, I don't actually strip for guys. I just sit there and they tell me about how much they hate their wife. And I have to sit there and tell them they're good boys. And it's like this
That is
weird.
a lot of stripping is like and the escort industry is just like
Yeah.
like being kind of a therapist.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
wanna get
Would you ask them what's their expertise?
It's like you're a therapist in a bikini. I want to get your take on this because I know you like I know you love TikTok.
Oh yeah, the TikToks. Where's my yellow glasses?
Okay.
Whole time I was seeing him, I was kind of just using it as a psychology experiment, and I didn't really like the guy. I more just wanted to see if I could break his heart, and it was fun.
So did you break
Yeah.
his heart then?
He did. I hope I did a little damage.
Wow. Okay. Why do you hope that you did a little damage?
Just I like humbling men.
You like
I didn't
humbling
watch
men.
the part with the sex doll.
I know I missed that.
Like,
Yeah.
my pastime.
Your pastime is humbling men.
Mhm.
You do work at the Spearmint Rhino, so at a strip club. So do you humble men there?
No, I take their money. Whole time I was seeing him, I was kind of just using it as a psychology experiment.
Oh,
and
boy.
Okay, it restarted.
All
Okay,
right. So
thoughts on
first
this?
things, what the hell is the cleavage shirt for? She's an A cup. Stop.
It's not even an under boob or a side boob. It's an in between boob.
At least a guy has the courtesy to put a roll of socks down his pants. What the hell? Secondly, this is what they call borderline personality syndrome. Or disorder, sorry. Which is like femininity cranked up to 12. So that part there, obviously the need for validation, but
It's a femme fatale.
yeah, femme fatale, that kind of thing. But here's the part that it works really well on codependent guys because she'll probably come on very strong at first. Love bombing, I'm sure you've heard of the term. They tell the guy everything he needs to hear because guys are stupid. On her first date with these guys, she'll do like information gathering. And the guy, because he loves her, will tell him all of his hopes and dreams, what his perfect girl is like, and she's just mentally taking notes. All I have to do is just agree and do all those things he said, and now I'm that perfect imaginary wife that he dreams about. And the guys are like, you guys wouldn't believe this. I've met the perfect girl, and they're hooked. And it's maybe very hot and heavy at first, but then as soon as she gets that, she gets bored. Most borderline people get bored of this, and so then they eventually like shed off. And so what happens when they're fucking with a guy is they don't just automatically go cold. It's like a casino where you can like 1 out of every 4 interactions is good, but then the next 3 are bad, and it slowly whittles down the affection in something that's called what do they call it? Intermittent rewards, which turns out that's how you get people addicted. So guys are literally addicted to her with the same hormones that they would use to get addicted to heroin. And then she slowly pulls it away to see how far she can get with it, because borderline personality disorder is a disorder. It means there's something physically wrong with her brain, either from a lack of development or a trauma, something like that, right? It's same as psychopaths, how they literally cannot feel. Borderline is like that. But that's the problem is for guys, it sounds like you just have the perfect girl. And then how could she do this? How could she turn? I was just dealing with a rather famous guy. I don't want to say who was dealing with this over Christmas.
Can I guess?
You can guess. I'll actually, you know what? No, I won't even tell you off camera. But it's like one of those ones that kind of reminds me that, yeah, the incel arguments are great, but there's like real people that wouldn't dare engage with this space. And so you have to keep in mind that they're the audience that you want to reach and not the guys sending super chats asking autism questions, you know? But but that's what the thing. So like, how are you going to tell a guy, this girl that's everything you want to be, she's lying to you? He's not going to listen to you. So you kind of have to let him get burned. And then once you get burned, you explain the process, show why it happens. You also let him to know on a first date, be more guarded. Treat yourself like you got value, right? And if you have value, don't give everything away for free. Be a mystery. Don't tell her your perfect wife right away. Wait until the second date. Wait until the third date. And the thing with the borderline chicks is once you become too much of a challenge, they just move on. They're like psychopaths that way. David Dutton talks about it in Wisdom of Psychopaths, where they had these psychopaths look at a bunch of women walking down the street on videos, and they would pick the ones that they would most likely want to assault. And it turns out 100% of the time, they were picking girls that were already victims of like sexual assault.
Wow.
And so they're able to like pick up on easy marks like this.
Yeah.
But I mean, every guy's got to learn this one the hard way. Like they won't believe you.
Your take is so interesting because I listened to this one a few times and I think this is very performative. I think like this is very like I'm trying to impress this panel of people. So I'm putting on this.
Oh, she is.
This is totally putting on this like sweater, this like feminist femme fatale man eating vibe, or she's like really trying to distance herself, like keep herself at arm's length and like not really get intimate with any guy. Truly, she's afraid to meet somebody that's like actually at her level that she actually can be vulnerable with. So she's like, oh, it's just they're like.
I don't think she even knows what that means. But I'll give you this: the outfit, that's a flex. That's her sewing.
That's
I don't even have to lie about it. I can flat out tell you what I do, and it's still gonna work. You know how it's like makeup? Like even if they know you're wearing it, it still works. It's like that.
Maybe she's in a shark attack right before this interview, and she's like, you know what? I'm gonna just safety pin this together. I'm gonna make it there in time.
Yeah, just enough to get good for YouTube. Well, yeah, absolute flex. Showing off. I look like this. I can say what I say. It still works. There's nothing you can do to stop me. What are you gonna do? That's what that says to me. What are you gonna do about it? And there's nothing you can do. What are you gonna do? Drop kick her through the drywall? Well, you're going to jail, sir. What are you going to do? All you can really do is just realize that this one is not for you, understand the psychological elements at play, and realize this one's a lost cause. And don't even waste your time.
What do you think are men's biggest mistakes in dating, and what are women's biggest mistakes in dating?
Men are idealistic. Men act too much like chicks. Men are afraid. I think afraid is a good word to use. Afraid of taking initiative. And men are ashamed of the things that make us attractive.
Really? Yeah.
And the problem is that a lot of women encourage it, but they do it as kind of like a test. Like, why would you listen to me? And then the guys that listen to them are like, yeah, you're an idiot.
Wow.
Like, I'm sure you've heard a girl at some point where like her husband was doing something and he's like, you told me to do this. It's like, well, why'd you listen to me?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard that. It's kind of like that.
Oh my God. It is. It's like a leadership test.
So yeah, they call it a shit test in the business.
Sometimes women don't even know that they're testing men, but
it's instinctive. There's actually an evil psych reason for it. It's the commitment skepticism bias is part of it, and another part of it was written by David Clare and Franco in the book Practical Female Psychology. They talk about it as the betification process. Ideally, from an evolutionary perspective, women, if you had multiple kids through multiple dads, you had a evolutionary pressure to survive more. Like if a bacteria went through the whole tribe, the multiple different sets of DNA gave you a better chance of survival. So back when we were cavemen, this tended to be good. Now we still have vestiges of that, even though it's not like now we're mostly a monogamous people, but that instinct is still there. And so what girls tend to do now is, first, it's called shit testing. And it's the idea of you feel a sexual attraction to a guy, but you don't automatically trust your feeling. And so you throw out like these subconsciously shit tests, basically teasing a guy or negging a guy or just making fun of him to see if it's a real attraction trigger. If it's not, he's going to spaz out, or like you said, I'm not going on Simpcast. Then it kind of, okay, false alarm.
He's sensitive. Yeah.
Yeah. But if the guy just kind of laughs it off, doesn't feel threatened by it, it tends to be generally more attractive. And then the relationship moves on to the next pace of validate himself. And this is where a lot of girls say, I want guys to open up and express their feelings more. It's true, but it's those guys they're already attracted to. They want to do that because that's how guys get hooked. Like that's what that chick did, but to a pathological level. And then the next step is put them to work. And that's where you have marriage, husband goes to work, stay-at-home wife, all that sort of stuff. It's a good place to be in a relationship because that means the girl's invested in the guy's invested in the girl. The problem comes next. The phase is, I don't want to get them mixed up. It's evolutionary selfishness, where all of a sudden nothing the guy does is right. The girl starts to become bitchy. And the idea is it's a way to emotionally separate from somebody who you don't feel attraction to anymore. So that the next step is evolutionary self-determinism, where I don't need a man, I get divorced, I get another guy, and then repeat the process. And so there's this emotional instinct that women have selected for over eons to move from one man to the next man to the next man without any kind of psychological damage. Now, we're not a slave to our instincts, but as a guy, you have to understand that that's a girl's default mode. And so just the simple act of passing your shit test of, calling your podcast Simpcast is a way of showing this and you just get it. And girls find that a guy who gets it fairly attractive. Same thing. When they're put to work, whenever she starts bitching about like things aren't getting good enough, you understand the process in place and then you can work to stay in that butter zone, to put them into work butter zone where you end up in a happier, healthier relationship.
You said something so interesting.
There's no way I did.
There's a phase of relationship where the woman is complaining a lot and unhappy and like bitchy and cunty. And you said that actually has to do with a lack of sexual attraction. It has nothing to do with like just being unhappy with, oh, you didn't do the laundry. Or, oh, you didn't.
Yeah, no, that's just the post hoc justification. Yeah.
So
what was interesting about it?
That's because I feel like people that are in that situation think, oh, like I just remember in past relationships, like I would get to that point and I didn't realize it wasn't about sexual attraction. I just thought like we just weren't getting along. It's almost like you really like barrel it down to such a basic thing when at the time you think it's about like, oh, it's about the laundry.
Oh yeah, because if you did more dishes, maybe I'd be comfortable. You'd have sex more. That classic argument. Yeah, that kind of stuff. But I mean, our hormones play a big role in how we act, and we don't ever really acknowledge it. I mean, I don't know about you. I just know a lot of girls, like you can usually tell when Shark Week is coming because their attitude will change. Like that's a good, or for guys, when we're depressed, we act different than normally. When we have, like when you take a guy, you add testosterone to his system, he gets more aggressive. Like hormones do change our behavior. The problem is our frontal lobe is really smart. And so it's trying to process these changes, but it doesn't know what hormones are. So it looks around for a reason for it. And that's where we get these post hoc justifications. And again, it's absolutely real. Like the girl, or like whatever you were annoyed with ex-boyfriends or whatever, you probably really were annoyed, but you latch that on to the reason for that lack of desire because, you can't really articulate how you feel. Most people can't. It's a feeling. If it wasn't a feeling, you could say it. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Because at the time I was like, oh, like maybe he's not like successful enough, like because he was a stand-up comedian also, and I just was I don't know, but it was a very toxic relationship for so many reasons. It was just bad. Yeah. I've heard comedian guys are some of the worst for dating. It was so bad, but I learned a lot of lessons. So it's almost like if you're in a relationship and you're not sure what's wrong, or like your wife or girlfriend's being bitchy, it sounds like you're saying like, just have good sex. That'll solve it. Well, don't fuck your wife. Make yourself more fuckable. Does that make sense? The difference? That's the advice that like, I feel like everyone's giving to women. Like, don't like work on yourself, get a better body, be more fuckable. Don't like complain. Yeah, well, I mean, to some extent, I guess that's true. But telling you not to complain when you feel like complaining isn't really, like, nobody's going to take that advice. Even marriage counselors admit this. Do you know why marriage counselors always tell the guys what they need to do to work on things? I don't know if you know about this, but that's what they do. It's because they know when emotions start running high, the girl will forget everything that they talked about in the marriage counseling session. So with the guy, the only chance they have to reach anybody is him. Wow. And that's the problem, because they're not addressing the root cause. It's that your feelings are the problem, but the feelings aren't invalid, even though they're not helpful. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay. Well, like, you feel angry at something because you're unattracted. That's real. Like, you can't say it's not real. Nothing will piss a girl off more than saying your feelings aren't real. But at the same time, if you take them super seriously, 100% valid, you're going to end up doing more dishes to try and win your heart back, as opposed to, well, maybe it's because I gained 20 pounds of weight and I'm a fat fuck now. Maybe it's because I stopped standing up to her and now I'm like a pushover and she's not attracted to me. Maybe it's just because I've been so busy with work that I don't have sex with her anymore. There could be all kinds of these reasons, but focus on the desirable stuff. That stuff you can control, and then you make yourself where you're more fuckable. So in other words, even if your girl still doesn't want to sleep with you, somebody will. And that way, you know, it's not a you problem, it's a them problem.
You feeling good about yourself helps just in every aspect of your life, even if it's just like a bad stage you're in. You know, if you get up every day, you're taking care of yourself, you feel good, you're like, all right, you know, yeah.
That's another reason psychology fails guys, because we think of people, men and women, as interchangeable. We're not. Like for women, because you guys have the baby makers, so an internal self-esteem makes sense. Tell you you're beautiful because you are beautiful. You're great, you know, believe in yourself, that kind of stuff. It works well for women. For men, it doesn't, because we're not. Nobody gives a shit about us.
Because men are like, are you guys more like results based? You're like,
yeah, well, that's how it happens. You do something, you succeed at something, and that's where your self-esteem comes from, that feedback loop. And that gives you more confidence to do other things. And so you have to create this feedback loop. And that's why, like, the big advice that everybody laughs at is like, oh, so you're depressed, just work out, bro. It's like, yeah, just work out. Like, working out builds testosterone, which mutes your emotions, which will cure that depression. B, the success of achieving like the small workouts, like a personal best or got through that hard workout, those create a feedback loop where you use those successes to do more things successful. So it's literally, if you can't be bothered to do that, you can't be bothered to do anything. And then, you know, side benefit of that is you look hot, and every girl likes when a man looks hot. So it's just one of those. And then once you deal with all these attraction stuff, a lot of the bitchiness goes away. And so if there is still problems in a relationship, they turn into more logistical ones. Oh, the dishes aren't done, so let's we hire a maid, but at that point you're both working on them together. Or your girl's just so happy because you know, tap the walls or whatever reference you want to use to it. You slept with her and she's so happy afterwards with that post-fuck glow that she does the dishes because she just wants to hum to herself, like whatever.
Scott Hall says, this is why I never got married, an endless battle of manipulation tactics.
See, it's not a bad, this is the part, and I'm not saying get married. I still think marriage is a bad deal for men. There's a reason I'm common law and not officially married, but I'll say this. Atlas asked not for a lighter load, but stronger shoulders. These skills matter. And it's just like a lot of guys will learn them to sleep with their wives. But then they find out that same assertiveness that got them to stand up to their wives helps them at work. Like, I've yet to see a guy who red-pilled himself, as we call it, and didn't end up in the next year earning more money at work. Because usually sometimes they find out they're leaving money on the table. They're not assertive in asking for raises. They're not assertive in going to a different job. They're not assertive enough in taking riskier ventures that have better payoffs or better commissions or whatever. And so, yeah, it's easy to say, I don't want to put all this work in to just sleep with the frumpy 5 mother of 2. It's like, yeah, well, that skill is teaching you how to thrive in the human condition. So it has multiple benefits. Even if it's not your wife, even if she doesn't like you at the end, you're going to find somebody else who's younger and hotter. Your boss is going to appreciate it. And then if you end up being a Lothario, like the surgeon friend I was talking about before after his divorce, he thought his boss was going to hate him. And once his boss found out he was like plowing through chicks, his boss started to like him more because now he was a Chad. And he was like, I didn't expect that. He goes, yeah, I know. Welcome to the club. Nobody kink shames you for, you know, getting tail. And then he went and bought himself a Harley and enjoyed the rest of his life. It was pretty heartwarming in a weird way.
Wow. Okay, interesting. Let me see. There's a couple of okay, this guy is trying to solve the problem by staying within the system's parameters that will never work.
Okay.
There's no point in having a wife if you have a maid.
I mean, I'm not here to convince a guy to get married or not. I really don't care what you do with your life. I'm just telling you, if you're in a relationship, like, do it properly. Don't fuck around. And if you decide the juice isn't worth the squeeze, then fill your boots. I hope you have a long and interesting, fulfilling life with no insecurities. I really do. But if you need it, it's there.
Why don't you want to get married?
Me? Well, I don't know. My mom's second divorce kind of solidified it in my head. The same reason though everybody knows. Like divorce is horrible. I've never seen very successful marriages. I've had evangelical friends' parents split up. I've had degenerate parents split up. I've had wife swapping parents split up. Like nobody stays together and the divorce just financially ruins everybody. So I'm like, it's not so much why did I not want to get married? It's like, what do I get out of a marriage that I don't already get out of an LTR, a long-term relationship? Nobody's been ever able to answer that for me.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as it
And the
works
best
for you
part about
both.
common law too, what I love is that every day my girl and I have to wake up and we have to make a choice to stay together. It's not, well, I have to stay with her because then I lose this and then lose that. It's no, every morning is like, we good? Yeah. And I like that. Every day you're opting into each other. There's your wholesome moment of the day.
That is wholesome. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm getting married this year, so
Congratulations.
I think that you should have that same approach to you should be able to do that in marriage too. Like wake up every day. Don't pretend you know all there is to know about this person. Continue to get to know them. Continue to like go for your goals and be your best self and don't be lazy.
We should.
We should.
And I hope the best for you, honestly. I really do. Like I said, half marriages end in divorce, but half stay together. And of those half that stay together, half of them are actually happy. So, but you seem like a top 25% kind of girl. I'm sure you'll be fine.
Thank you. Wow.
Yeah. A top G.
A top G.
G is for girl.
I want to be a top C. Oh yeah, top G, top girl. Confucius Cold Bug. Shout out to Coach Rian. He saved my life.
The big joke is that every time there's a $5 super chat, I have to answer about the cuck article. That's because the Tate freak out and the Murphy freak out, they're always on $5 super chat. So the inside joke is this is basically a way to ruin a career.
It only takes $5.
Only $5.
Dark Knight Dev. Blacks love drip the way Caucasians love freedom. That's really funny.
He is wise beyond his years.
I saw a tweet like it said "Patriot is the new N-word." I laughed so hard the other day. I don't know where I saw it. Joseph Massey. A bad attitude is more of a wall than saggy flesh. True. Guys love enthusiasm.
Oh, dude. Yes.
Little Sausage. Holy crap! Watching Chrissy and see a former shipmate. I didn't know how I missed your. I don't know how I missed your channel. Subbed.
Wait, we
Do you
sailed
know this
together?
You know this little sausage?
I might. Calgary? You know what? Off camera. I'm not gonna.
Okay.
I've been pretty. It's a pen name, right? So I don't want to. Like I know the doxing concerns. So yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
I don't want to get
You
too
just have to
personal.
go, Yarr, and then he goes back. Yarr.
Ready? I ready.
Chad of Arabia. I don't know what kind of money this is, but thank
Saudi
you.
Arabian.
Oh, Saudi Arabia rubles. Shout out to Coach Ryan and his new book.
Thank you, Mish. Sweetheart.
That's my first ruble. Governor Megatron, props to having Ryan on, and his new book rocks.
First member of the T-Rex army. Fun fact. You're like, wow.
I didn't know T-Rex was your mascot.
It is. Oh, well, no, not November. Remember that? The guys don't want to jerk off for November to get superpowers or whatever?
Yes, no nut. Mm-hmm.
So the big running joke, and I think Mish, the Chatty of Arabia, started it. It's like, well, if you're the mighty T-Rex, you're alpha because your arms don't reach. So you always win. And so that was like our inside joke. And then another one was guys always making themselves into alpha males like lions and tigers. And he goes, you know what'll beat those guys up? A giraffe. And then we always have videos of giraffes just kicking the shit out of lions.
That's true.
Yeah.
Giraffes are underrated. Okay, one more from Objectively a Cat. Corn does not belong on pizza. I guess I agree. I don't know. Some of these are random. Matthew Hammond, what percentage of first-time marriages end in divorce? After one divorce, it is easier to get a second divorce.
The stats are old, but 50% ended in divorce, and of the second marriages, 75% ended in divorce. Ooh. But the numbers are going down. I want to say it's like 40 or 30% now. But a caveat to that is that less people are getting married. So the prevailing theory is that the marriages that were most likely to end in divorce just aren't getting married. And then the ones that do are sticking together. But then they're like, that's possibly because of economic factors, because of the 2008 crisis and the current one we got now. People tend not to divorce in hard economic times. They tend to divorce when times are good.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Or the ones that are getting married like really want to.
Also true. So yeah, but we don't have enough like better analysis to know which way it's going yet. So it's a bit fuzzy.
Okay. I feel like I interrupted you when we were explaining the biggest mistakes that guys and girls make. So guys are too idealistic.
Yeah. Yeah, we
What
don't love
about
you. We love the idea of you.
wow? Why does that happen?
It's just the way guys' brains are wired. Where was it Rollo Tomassi talks about? He says guys are romantics posing as opportunists, and women are opportunists posing as romantics. And there's some truth to it.
Wow, that's funny. Okay,
Yeah,
and what
well, I
are
mean,
the
but wife goggles is the big part of that. I guess that's the
white
answer to your question.
goggles?
Yes. Well, it's case in point. You marry that hot 19-year-old you met at the bar. She to you will be locked in time. She could be 43, 2 kids, saggy flesh. In your mind, you still see her as that hot 19-year-old at the bar. And that's why a lot of times that bitchy behavior we were talking about before, or being cheated on in that, it's slapping the wife goggles off your face, and you stop seeing that idealized version of her and you see her for what she really is. And that's why a lot of guys just kind of go cold after like a betrayal or being henpecked for too long. But that's the problem, is that you're looking at the idealized version of you as opposed to the real human being in front of you, which is a kind of a narcissistic fantasy, which is guys' version of being borderline, is narcissistic personality disorder. So it's what we're evolved to do, but if you take it too far, it becomes unhealthy. Does that make sense?
And how do you overcome that? Just communication.
You gotta hate her just a little bit.
You have to hate her just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just enough that you don't pedestalize her in your mind as this perfect creature that doesn't fart. You have to think of her with a little bit of hate in your heart, so that way you have you're looking with your eyes and not with your heart. Don't get me wrong. We're like 2%. 98% love her. Just 2%. It's all it takes.
All right, maybe just if you have to hate something small.
Yeah. It's like the audience. You love your audience, but you got to hate them a little bit.
I don't hate them.
You know what I mean. It's a hyperbolic term to get the point across.
Okay. I know that Ellen hated her audience big time.
Oh, too gay.
Like she
hate
hated
your
them
audience
all
less
the
than
way.
Ellen.
Yeah.
We're not talking Ellen.
She was
maybe
upset
Maury Povich.
that weren't all hot lesbians in the crowd watching her. Yeah. Okay. And biggest mistake that women make?
Marrying the guy they don't love and not planning better. Like not knowing what they want. A lot of girls, like now they're waiting later and later. Like the average age of marrying has gone from like 27 in the 90s to now it's like 31, 32, maybe even 33. And obviously, you know, all the biological stuff. I'm not going to rant about that. But the point is, girls, all of a sudden, they work so hard early on for like, you know, a business, a career, or whatever it is they do, and then try to rush that whole relationship and baby stuff into like a 2-year span. You end up marrying a guy who's available, not necessarily a guy you're into. And a lot of problems come with dealing with the consequences of those rushed decisions. And then beyond that, I would say women are very communal. Like they always say, the biggest indication that you're going to get divorced is that your friends have just gotten divorced.
Wow.
The idea there is that women tend to think more communally like that. They tend to be more consensus driven. Taking that to an extreme extent, like especially with social media, is a bad idea. Monkey see, monkey do. Your friend got divorced. I'm going to get divorced with you. Obviously, it's not obvious like that, but it is a factor.
Now I have a brunch buddy. Brunch.
Yeah, exactly. And don't get me wrong. Girls, misery loves company. A divorced chick wants nothing more than her friends to be divorced so she has some company. And so that's why, I don't know if you've ever seen this. Like if you've ever had a friend of yours break up with her man, she kind of like starts hinting that maybe you should break up with yours too. I don't know if you've gotten that or not.
No, but I've had the opposite happen, whereas I had a very good friend of mine say, you and Frank actually really inspire me. I really want to meet a really nice guy now.
Oh, because you got the wholesome
She
example.
had a
Perfect.
really nice boyfriend.
Yeah, same thing.
I was like, oh my
just
God,
opposite.
that like, I don't know, it made me feel really good. She's
Yeah,
like,
it
you
should.
guys were like a power couple. I don't know. It was like, it was really fucking cool to hear that.
It's good. But yeah, so like that, but the opposite thing. So for women, there has to be like going against your instincts a bit to go against the herd if you want to do something that makes you happy. But I mean, we can all go against our instincts to some extent. We stop eating sugar so we don't become fat. So we can clearly have some control over it.
True.
And I would say that for men and women, those are the two biggest ones.
Okay, wow.
But I'm not great with women. Like I don't try to help women or tell women what to do. I really don't care what you do. Mine had to earn the spot. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Because as a guy, you know what you went through and what you learned.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, I'm not sleeping with any of these girls. Why am I trying to save them? That's a question I got for you. all of these guys telling these girls what they need to do with their life and stop hoeing around and whatever. It's like, why are they so invested in women that they will never meet? I don't have an answer. Do you?
Maybe the feeling of they like to help or have influence, or
do they really want to help though when they're throwing empty egg carton photos at girls online? Do you really think they're trying to help?
True, no.
Where they call a girl a 304 because they don't want to break the terms of service and use the word hoe? I don't think they're trying to help. Do you think Fresh and Fit, when they give a girl a White Claw and kick her off the podcast, you think they're trying to help?
White Claws are the worst of the spiked seltzers. That's like an insult.
Thank you. Somebody said it. That's like the headache ethanol that you're not supposed to put in real vodka. They give that to White Claws.
It's a fruit flavored fart. It's like a farty, fruity seltzer.
Yeah. And that's what all this stuff does now. It's just Jerry Springer. Get the girls drunk in the podcast, ask them some hoe questions. The girl's honest, like the 8-cup titty you had on there before. And then they kick her off, and all the guys are like, yeah, you kicked my bitch ex-wife off that cast. I love this place.
So it's more about like putting women down and feeling, you think they just want to feel better about themselves.
I think so. I think it's literally, like the freak show. I love to watch the freaks. I feel like I'm not a freak. Or Jerry Springer. Dude, you remember that? As like teenagers or kids or whatever, you'd watch that couple throwing chairs at each other. You're like, thank God my dad only put cigarettes out on me. This is so much better.
I mean, my dad did throw a chair at me, but just once.
Oh.
He missed.
Oh,
yeah.
Well. See, that's what make me mad. I'm like, Dad, come on. I'm trying to be a professional diver here. If I can't dodge chairs, where are these? Like...
Yeah, it's like I need my head.
Pathetic alpha male wannabe. I don't mean to like make jokes and light about like childhood abuse, but I mean we've all been there.
Oh yeah.
Or apparently we haven't, but I have and you have.
I think it builds character. I think it like you get a certain degree of like humility. Like you don't I don't know, you don't grow up to be like full of yourself and like thinking you're hot shit because you
definitely don't panic over nothing.
No, and you're like, okay, big deal. You get hit. Life goes on.
Yeah. And then the worst part is when you tell the stories, you're having a good laugh at it, then everybody else is just staring at you like you got 3 fucking heads. You're like,
like other people who've been hit are like, yeah. Get over it.
Yeah, the buckle. We've all been there.
Yeah.
You can laugh about it.
The soap, you learn really quick, like, oh yeah, like what kind of a bed you can hide under. Like you can size it up pretty quickly. It's fun. It's fun being a kid.
Or my grandmother, she always made me go get the Switch to beat your ass with, and so you had to like a
Nintendo Switch?
No, like a willow branch.
Oh, I'm like that's
and so
small.
you had to get the smallest branch you could get, but if it was too small, she would go get her own, and that one would be like a log. So it was like this psychological torture of trying to figure out like which stick is gonna beat your ass with.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I got pretty good at dissecting willow tree branches. It's one of my skills. I don't talk about it much, though.
Oh, it's a very unique skill. Colin Carnes, hello, Ryan and Chrissy. Did Ryan ever speak to or know Stefan Arnio? He gave a very good, genuine man advice. He sadly passed in 2020 from cancer.
Was he the private man? Like, did he have a pen name? Let me look it up. That's a good question. The only one I've heard of that died of cancer was this guy. He called himself the private man. And he was like generally good. He was very rudimentary, but I mean, this was like, okay, this guy, I don't know who the hell this guy is. Tips for Canadian real estate investors. I don't think we're talking about the same guy. Tips for real estate investors. Our market's fucked. Advice over.
Oh.
Dude, inflation, man. My place has doubled in price the last 3 years. Thanks, Trudeau.
Thanks, Trudeau.
Accidentally become a millionaire.
Trudeau's before hose.
I love it.
This is okay. Tell me if this might be old and irrelevant, but I found this.
Oh, wow.
This is from 2020. What is dread, or why no one has any frame? But I thought this was so interesting. I think, yeah.
I can't believe somebody read my blog. That's interesting.
Yes, this is so interesting. You talk about the levels of dread in a relationship, and then like what you should, like where you are, basically like where you are in your relationship, where it's going wrong, and like what to do to fix it. And it's fascinating. So dread level 1. Learn to recognize and start passing shit tests. You mentioned this earlier.
Yeah.
Begin building a strong, indefectible frame where you are not affected by sexual denials. Begin leading your wife more and begin seducing her. I mean, this is always good. I feel like this is good for everybody.
Now, I should preface too, this is an old system. The guy who originally did this, his pen name was the Blue Pill Professor, and he had modeled it after like an AA 12-step program. It hasn't really held up to the test of time. We've had enough guys run through it to find that step 8 and above kind of got hand wavy. And there's a new model of it, which is actually, that's what the book was supposed to be, but it got to be so large, it's like twice the size of what it is now. So I had to split it up into 2 parts, hence the volume 1, volume 2. But now it forms into what they call like a scoreboard model. The idea is in the first part of a marriage, your wife's always putting points up. She's deciding what's good and what's bad, and nothing's ever good enough. You're constantly losing. So you have to like get out of your wife's frame, basically set your own worldview and define things on your own terms. And then you're going to start putting points up on that board, but you're still adversarial with her. And that's the second part where it's getting out of her frame, then building your own frame until you get to the third point, which is where you realize like there's no scoreboard. She's not an arch nemesis. It's just like a little woman and it's a wife. And so you throw the scoreboard away. And so that process has tended to work a lot better. But largely it's about putting the useful parts of this 12-step model, the ones that work, into that 3-stage model, which I know sounds like a pedantic argument.
So
but
what on here do you think is the most useful? Like, what? I don't know if you probably haven't memorized these, but like if you can remember.
Boundary enforcement, 100%.
Which number is that?
That'd be 2. Should be 2. One card it talks about frame, which is vital, but that's like, it's a foundation. You don't get anywhere without frame. But boundaries in that.
Develop an action plan to improve the major areas of your life. I mean, this is good to do all the time.
Yes, but that's the thing. Like, that's self-improvement. Nobody argues with that, but that's only part of the picture.
Develop the physical, spiritual, psychological, financial, and personal areas of your life. Your journey begins at the gym, where you need to lift heavy weights to exhaustion 3 to 4 times a week, working each muscle group at least 2 times a week. People in the chat were like, why is this guy so obsessed with working out? I think it just gives you strength for life. It gives you a good backbone for discipline. I mean, a good...
There's a few reasons. Yeah. The first one is, like you're saying, the discipline. Building up your testosterone actually helps too. Compound lifts do that. And the thing with testosterone is it mutes your empathic response. So a lot of guys who they actually get physically fight or flight when their girl's yelling at them or their girl cries. And so it mutes that. So you're able to weather fights with your wife a lot easier. But on top of that, from this side of the fence, if some guy wants you to help him do this stuff. So you start off with like Strong List 5x5. It's a basic bitch program. Anybody can do it. It's idiot proof. If you can't be arsed to do that small amount of nobody would ever complain. It's not misogynist. It's nothing. It's literally go to the gym, be selfish for 45 minutes, 3 days a week. If you can't do that, then why am I wasting my time trying to teach you anything? Because you're just not going to do any of it. A lot of it is just to filter out time wasters too, right? So it's got a bit of a double purpose to it.
Like, can you set aside time to self-improve? Can you?
Yeah. And for a lot of guys, this is the first selfish thing they're doing in their life, is going to the gym, turning their phone off, and doing something that's only for their own benefit. It's like literally the start of a process of treating yourself as if you have value.
And I think this is so helpful for women too. Like, it helps you have energy the whole rest of the day. You feel good about yourself. And it's like a lot of the times, like when I look back in times I've been bitchy to like my boyfriend, it was because, I wasn't taking care of myself. I've been skipping the gym. I was cranky about that. I was cranky about not feeling good and taking it out on him. So it's like, if you can just take care of yourself, you bring your best self to that relationship.
Yeah.
And just everybody in your life.
And then the part that's supposed to be on there, I think it's there. It might be 3, but boundary enforcement. The idea is, like, as you're building your frame, which was part 1, and that's what the whole first book is dedicated to. And 2 and 3 kind of meld into it too. But once you're there, you have to decide what is it you will and won't put up with. It's not what do I want you, like, as let's say you were my wife, I would say it's not what I want you to do. It's about what I am going to do in response to things. So I don't need you to change. I don't need you to do anything. Nothing is your fault. Nothing is your responsibility. It's all on me. And
it's like radical acceptance, basically.
Yeah, basically. But I don't want to call it radical or extreme or any of those buzzwords. I want it to be C-SPAN, boring, matter of fact. The guys who get it the best, they always think there's going to be some big fight with like the woman and Rocky and a montage. It's like, but they end up talking about it like they were taking out the garbage and then the wife cried and they dealt with it, and it just becomes very muted. And that's kind of where I want it to be. But for boundaries, that's easy. All you have, like the only tools you have to enforce your boundaries, what you will and won't put up with, is your attention, your affection, and your commitment. And so, like, you can't hit women, obviously, or anything like that. So all you can do is pull those away, commensurate with whatever.
Unless you're Dana White, then you can do whatever you want.
Well, in that case, I mean, didn't she hit him first at that point? Like,
she did. Yes, I could tell. Like, he was trying to calm her down. Like he was trying to like chill her out, and then he went to go hold her hand, and that's when she pulled away and slapped him. And I was like,
Oh,
"Damn, girl."
Jesus. Yeah, at that
Yeah.
point, I'm like, I don't know. Don't hit people. You shouldn't hit a woman, but you shouldn't be surprised if he hits you back. But I mean, whatever. I'm not going to talk about beating women. I think it's a horrible, like, Pierce Morgan's going to ask me in 2 years, what's about this? Yeah. So you pull those commensurate with whatever her boundary is. If it's just something small, like you had a bad day at work and you're bitching at me and I don't want to hear it, you pull some attention and it's fine. And this way it encourages you to act better, because if you don't act better, you just start to lose me. But that's the thing. These tools only have any teeth to them if you have what they call as an SMV, sexual market value. Basically, if you're worth acting right for. And that's another part where the working out comes for, and all the other attractive stuff. Dressing better, hygiene, anything you can think of for self-improvement. That's there to give their boundary enforcement any weight. And that, I think, is huge, because for a lot of guys, they don't know what they want. They have no idea. All they've ever done is defer to the women in their life. You know, happy wife, happy life shit. And so for a lot of guys, and I love this, when they start complaining about their wives or their problems to me,
Is it
and
weird
I'm like,
that I don't think I've ever been with a guy who's been like that.
who knew what he wanted?
No, like always deferring to the girl, like unable to make decisions. Or
Well,
like,
see, there's a difference. You're hot and you have the pick of the litter. Not everybody is as lucky as you.
you should see my YouTube comments. Thank you for that. But
Just egg cartons everywhere, empty egg cartons.
yeah, cracked eggs, old eggs, dead chickens, horse memes, a lot of
Right
horse
beside a
memes.
brick wall. What the hell?
Oh yeah, just a horse running into a brick wall.
Well, you take it better than Jack Murphy did. I'll put it that. I'll give you that.
Like once you like so many roast battles, you know every possible joke that could be said about your appearance in your life.
They seem so derivative though, because it's like all the same 5 things for you. I would almost
True.
like hope you'd get something more creative.
Yeah, occasionally you do, but it depends on the comic. Like I was in a roast battle where the girl made fun of my mom who had like terminal brain cancer,
Oh,
and
Jesus.
it bombed, and it made me feel so good because for a second I was like, oh no, that hurt my feelings, but then it did so poorly that I was like, yes, the crowd is on my
Holy
side.
Jesus. Was this like the opening salvo, or was this like you guys are getting heated and that was like
We were
her
getting
trump
heated.
card?
We were
Okay.
getting heated, and I was like, oh, I don't know which way it's gonna go, and I was like, oh, she bombed.
Imagine starting right out of the gate with that. Like, holy shit.
Some people do.
How's your
fun.
dead mom? What the
She wasn't even dead yet. She was
Yeah.
like a few months away, but that's what you say when you're like, oh, nothing's off limits. Because if you say, oh, don't talk about my mom with cancer, you know
Oh,
that's
yeah,
what
they'll
they're gonna
drive a
go
truck
for.
through that.
Yeah, they'll be like, choo choo. Wait, that was a train sound.
That sucks. Oh, she tried, I guess.
Okay, the
Congrats.
point is, you said, have your own hobbies, have your own discipline, have your own habits, like without your wife, so that she's not your and something I've heard that like a difference between how men and women handle breakups is that sometimes men will put so much into like the woman they're with that when they break up, they become what's called like emotionally homeless. Like
Yeah.
they don't really keep their friendships up. They don't they just really put everything into that one woman, and then when she's gone, it's like, oh God, like she did all the things. She was the only person I talked to, and it's a little bit more like I've just read studies
It's called being zeroed out.
and how it's like more traumatic for men sometimes breakups than women, because women still maintain their female friendships, and they
And a lot of times when girls leave a relationship, they leave 6 months earlier, and then they kind of feel for like another boyfriend or like people
What's it
there. So
called?
when they leave,
quiet quitting.
yeah, quiet quitting, monkey branching,
Yeah.
whatever term you want to use.
Monkey branching.
Well, that's because the monkey doesn't let go of the one branch till he has the other. It's a MGTOW term. Doesn't really matter.
I thought it was like if you want to start going for black guys. All right.
Oh, yeah. I believe they use mud sharking for that term, but I mean, I have enough melanin I can say that, but not anymore.
Why? What are you?
I'm
Filipino?
technically I'm Irish and English.
I never would have guessed that.
No, 20% of my heritage was Portuguese, but it comes up in the DNA test as West African, so which makes sense. My mom was adopted back in the 50s, and she's the dark one. But I met my biological family, and they're all red-headed Scottish people. So it explains now why I'm Irish, English, Scottish, and West African. I'm like, I get it.
You're a mutt.
Pretty
Chicks
much,
leave
but
and
Canadian.
75% of friends, male and female, become compromised. Oh, right. The division of the friends.
Oh yeah, and that's because most people side with most people will prefer women to men, on things like this. So a lot of guys found out, and this is what it's called zeroing out for. It's not just that the guy loses the girl and all this investment. It's that the friends turn on him. What did you do? How did you ruin this? It's always his fault, and the girl gives a sob story, and they're more likely to believe it. Sometimes even the guy's family turns on him and sides with the girl.
Damn.
And so for a guy, it's not so much that he loses all this investment in a girl, it's that his entire world just shattered. All of the friends he had, all of his family, he turns out that he didn't really have them anyway. It was just a facade. And this is where a lot of guys end up, doing the old Canadian healthcare. That's why the biggest self-euthanize, I'm trying to be good for your monetization here, but like the biggest cohort of guys that self-delete tend to be like 45-year-old divorced men.
That's so sad. Those statistics make me so sad.
But and then that's the problem. Most content creators just look at how bad men have it, like the men's rights stuff. Suicide is bad and nobody cares. It's like, yeah, nobody cares. That's why they're doing it. So just sitting here asking like you want sympathy is not helping. Instead, that's where like the red pill guys were always different. They're like, okay, so this exists. It's here. How do we fix it? And then a lot of it is just, a lot of the process here is building your better networks around, making sure you don't defer to the girl, the little hater a little bit part. That's kind of the end result, so that if and when things do get there, you don't have to end up with your dick in your hands and no friends, whatever, sitting in the sad MGTOW apartment. You can actually,
like John Bobbitt.
Yeah,
literally.
Oh, there's a shout out.
Just in his hands, separated from his body.
Yeah, and it's a real skill because, like, obviously guys don't intuitively know to do this. They just assume the wife handles all the social stuff and they never think of building it up themselves. Even just something easy. It's like catch and release. It's one of the more controversial strategies I say for guys when you're married, and even if you're happily married, just be flirtatious. Flirt with other chicks, talk to other chicks. Like, don't sleep with them. Obviously.
Like flirt with a waitress. Like
yeah,
let the world know you still got it.
Well, it's more so practicing keeping your skills sharp, but you want to make it naturally who you are. So it's not just I'm flirting with her to make my wife jealous. It's I'm flirting with her because I flirt with everybody because I'm a flirtatious guy. And that's one of those things that make you attractive. And then as a girl, if you notice other girls start flirting back on your man, it kind of makes you like your man a little more. Because it's like other girls want him, but he's mine.
Still got it. Yeah. Like,
nobody wants a gift that nobody else will steal from you,
Right. Nobody wants a fruitcake.
I can take that many different ways. But yes, I don't think many women want fruitcakes.
Okay, so join a club, have something to do, begin conditioning. Oh, this is what you were talking about. Begin conditioning your availability to your wife with her treatment of you.
Yeah.
You are busy. Grammatical error. You are busy now. You don't have time for a sexually disinterested, annoying, or angry wife. Take up another cause if you need to. This is.
I do want to say I have a really good editor, so the book is much better, well written than this.
Okay.
2 years of practice, a couple 100,000 words. Don't trust the blog's grammar.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a blog. Nobody checks them.
It's a blog. I know. I'm just joshing you.
You did very well. That's my brain cancer mom thing you just threw at me right now. Just letting you know.
What? Grammatical errors?
Yeah, the grammatical errors.
Oh no. This almost sounds like someone would read this and go, "Oh, this sounds like game playing. This sounds like manipulation."
It does. And it sort of is,
but
but
I guess it's about standards, like having and keeping standards.
Well, I don't want to minimize that either. Like everybody's like tries to walk away from manipulation. I take a different approach. Everything's manipulation, so you might as well get good. Like if a baby cries to pick him up, that's manipulation. Did you know? Actually, here's a good one. Did you know that when a girl screams, a guy actually has like his adrenal gland starts going off just from the sound of you screaming or you crying or a baby or a dog yelping. So that's total manipulation. But we would not argue that a baby crying to be saved is bad manipulation. It's just manipulation. It's just a tool. So as a guy, be as manipulative as is socially acceptable, I think is a better way to word it. Because that's one of those things where I said the problem with guys is that they're ashamed of the things that make them men. And your own version of manipulation is one of them. Because women will manipulate you, absolutely. Just the way it's welcome to the human race. Like that's what we do. Yeah. Like I know you haven't because you're swell. But I know there's that crazy chick on the TikTok. I guarantee you she's cried to get her man to do something for her.
I just think like why manipulate when you can just be like open and honest? Like work on yourself, figure out what you really want.
Well, you are honest. That's the thing though. It's just not overt. It's covert honesty. Yeah, same as that guy you were saying, like, hey, let's have sex or whatever. Like if you say that to a girl, no girl's ever gonna say, okay. You have to say, you have
My
to,
parents were so passive aggressive with each other. All they did was manipulate and talk down to each other that it actually
yeah.
put me off of marriage for many years. I was like, this is who wants to sign up for a lifetime of this bullshit.
See, I agree there. That's like a pathological one. There was actually, it's in Praxeology. What the hell was the author's name? I can't remember off the top of my head, but that's fine. I remember the quote. He was talking about how humans aren't designed for objective truth. And this gets to your point about manipulation. And it's if water was tied to fitness, like genetic fitness, then more water would be good, and we would be good at detecting objective amounts of water. But that's not the case. It's actually on like a bell curve. So too little water and you dehydrate, too much water and you drown. So humans aren't designed to objectively measure water. We're designed to notice whatever butter zone, whatever Goldilocks zone we live in. And so like everything, we're built for utility. And manipulation, same thing. There's bad manipulations like the passive aggressive thing on one side or the borderline chick that manipulates guys and breaks their heart on the other. But there's a Goldilocks zone where it's healthier, more functioning human type of manipulation we do to each other. And I think we shouldn't be turned off of the entire term just because of the bad actors on either side of the tail end of the bell curve and just focus on the healthier parts that are in the middle.
Not
which
all
is
manipulation
generally
is bad. It's basically like I'm being selfish and going to the gym instead of the answering to the empathetic part of you that maybe is like, oh, I want to sleep in and cuddle, or I want to like, you know,
because
help
then
you
she'll
with
love
your
me.
thing. Right.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it. Everything gets a bad rap now. Manipulation gets a bad rap. Sex gets a bad rap. Guys getting angry gets a bad rap. Like there's a very valid reason for guys to get angry, but if you just hide from that anger and you're ashamed from that anger, and the only response is to stop being angry, guys are going to bottle that up and then it's going to explode in some Elliot Rodger bullshit.
Anger is so useful. It tells you what you care about.
It's the only social emotion that guys have. Cuz nobody gets angry by themselves. If I drop a hammer on my foot, I get hurt, but I don't get angry.
I see a lot of people getting angry by themselves in traffic.
Well, they're not by themselves. It's that guy there. He did something. It requires pain and grievance. So it's not just that somebody hurt me. Or it's not that I'm hurt, but I'm hurt and that guy did it. That's what causes anger. And that's why it's a social emotion, because it's your way of signaling, stop doing what you're doing or I'm going to get violent. And it's our way of letting people know to back off, right? Yeah. Same as like animals, how they start growling.
Like animals, yeah.
Yeah. And that's the problem, is that we're civilized now. So for the most part, we don't need and we don't use anger. But because we don't want guys hitting themselves over the head with beer bottles every week, we've now treated that extreme version of anger, and we've denigrated anger as a whole. When in reality, a guy getting pissed off at his nagging wife and just like, I'm fucking out of here and leaving the house. Or just, heaven forbid, if your wife's spiraling, just tell her to shut the fuck up one day. Like, these are good types of anger. They let her know. And maybe she doesn't even know she's spiraling and it kind of sorts things out. But again, if you don't what's that?
Letting the person know that there's a boundary that's been crossed, and it's like, oh, the person got angry, and then it tells you and then signals to you, okay, yeah, maybe I'm just like telling him too many things to do. I think I'm being too critical about too many things all in a row. Cool, got it. He just came home from work. Okay, yeah.
And because the guy knows what he's doing, it's under control. So you can turn it up if you need to do it, and then you turn it back down when the problem goes away. I think that's much healthier than guys who just bottle it up and then blow a gasket and like smack their wife around and get arrested. Or the ones that are so afraid of getting angry. Do you remember that TikTok video of the black chick that was getting mad at the dude at the hotel? And he was like freaking out, but he didn't want to say anything because he was racist. Started hitting himself in the face with a keyboard and shit. You remember that guy?
Oh my gosh, yes, that was so upsetting to watch.
That's when a guy suppresses his anger to like extreme levels. Like that's the only thing he knows how to do is like self-destruct. And that's why a lot of guys in horrible marriages, I would argue, like turn to drugs and booze and gambling and all this other shit, because they have no way to express their anger, and then it just comes out in these pathological ways.
Wow.
Yeah, I felt bad. Guy, it was like, and I get it. The person who posted that was doing it to laugh at him too. I'm like, Jesus fuck, man.
Yeah, it's just like I don't know, is it fear of communication or?
Well, he's been gaslit his entire life that anger is bad. Man is bad. Don't you get angry. As soon as you're angry, mom won't love you.
Yeah.
And you take 30 years of brainwashing into that, that's one of the ways it can manifest. The other way is, like I said, thugs and simps. Another guy just might start racing his wife in the elevator. But like either one is unhealthy. But I mean, who's going to guide a man on this stuff? Nobody. Nobody's going to talk about this because it's not, lack of a better word, feminine approved. You have to do what makes Oprah nod, you know?
Interesting.
And that's why some idiot here, just some idiot sailor who did pickup artists for a couple years, is now like the last line of defense for some of these guys. That's how far we've fallen, man.
Yeah.
It's like, I ain't shit. I ain't shit.
easy.
I shouldn't be helping anybody.
It's easy to seek advice from someone who's like telling you what you want to hear and like, oh, I have to do the least amount of change. And
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's always their fault. That sells. Nobody
Right,
wants to take
especially
responsibility.
women. Like, look at all the cultural forces pushing women towards like, don't settle. You don't need a man. The whole like, if you can't handle me at my like raving lunatic phase, you don't deserve me at my like good.
Such a weird way to frame it too. I never quite got that.
I don't even know how that.
You need to be able to put up with me being a raging cunt, otherwise I don't want to even like you. You're like,
Yeah, you better handle a dish flying at your head, or else you ain't gonna get this sweet puss.
one of my friends had that. It's actually in Fuck Files. His wife threw a plate at him
Whoa.
when he wanted to come out drinking with us, but she refused to have it, and he ended up cleaning up the plate. And I was like, and then didn't come out. I was like, oh man, they got divorced a little bit later.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay. Upgrade your clothes. Start dressing up more of the time. That's always good.
A lot of
top
guys
off-
don't though. They let their wives buy Kirkland signature Costco clothes.
Wow. See, yep. Like it's funny. It's like yeah.
You're without words right now.
I-
Stumped.
I do notice like my brother, I think his wife buys like almost all his clothes for him now.
Yeah. And this guy Royce, he talked about that. Girls that subconsciously, unless you're dating a girl who's like fashion is part of her gig, kind of dress you, they ugg you up a little bit so no other girl tries to
I don't
steal
like
you.
that. I really don't
It's
like
like-
that.
I don't either, but it's a mate retention strategy that women subconsciously use. A lot of them do. And so, yeah, letting your woman dress for you is essentially setting yourself up for failure. It's just one of those weird things that by following our instincts, we actually get suboptimal outcomes.
But what if a guy genuinely needs help, like doesn't know what to wear to make himself look the best?
And there's
he
guys
can?
that do that. Tanner Guzzi, he's actually a
I
style
love
guy.
Tanner. He's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
I'm a big atheist Christopher Hitchens guy myself, but I never will ever say a bad word about Tanner. He's my favorite LDS guy.
LDS.
Well, they don't. It turns out I didn't know this until he told me. Calling somebody a Mormon is kind of pejorative, so they prefer to be called Latter-day
Oh.
Saints.
It's like calling someone an Oriental.
Exactly. Where you're like, that's not offensive. They're like, it kind of is.
I'm an Latter-day Asian. Interesting. Okay, excel self. Sometimes you got to drop the dead weight.
Yep. But that's the trick. How do you know she's the dead weight? And same process here. By the end of it, you might find out she is the problem. But now you know. And you're in a much better position afterwards if you did. So like there's no benefit to not doing the stuff.
Right. It can only, upgrade your clothes. That's always good. I mean, it's gonna make the person you're with
We're gonna have fun when we get to like 6, 7, and 8, aren't we?
tap off yourself. Yeah, captain of your ship, leading your relationship. That's fun. What's Kino?
Kino is just what they used to call it Kino escalation. It was essentially flirting but with touch.
Oh,
So like something
yes,
nice on a date, touching
unnecessary
your
touch.
arm,
That's great.
small of her back, stuff like that. There's called the DiCarlo escalation ladder. It's like really shows you like what touches are like a 1 and which ones are like 100.
Good
so
touch,
that way you're
bad
not
touch.
automatically trying to grope a chick in the boobs or whatever.
Oh yeah, everybody should know that. Like, don't
Yeah.
just go for the boobs.
I
Okay,
mean, some
cool.
guys don't.
Dread level 6, begin to study pickup artistry. So this idea that you should always be in the stage of seducing your wife.
So yeah, the wording is a bit clunky on this one. I'll grant you that. But it's like what I was talking about before. And the one thing that was nice, I call pickup training wheels for the soul. Because for a lot of guys, you'll have natural guys who just know how to do it, tell you, like, just go walk up to her and say hello. And the guy walks
Yeah.
up, he doesn't know what to say. And so pickup guys, they come up with what they call like canned scripts. And the idea of a script is it works. It's a good way of engaging conversation. And so it's for a guy to practice and get into the zone and start a conversation and get good at it. And then what you're supposed to do is get rid of the script, start using your own examples from your own life, like tell your anecdotes instead, or try things out yourself. But it's there when you don't know what to do when you're in front of a girl until you figure out what to do. Like in the Praxeology, I joke around, there was this book, How to Draw an Owl, the Pickup Artist Guide. And it's like step 1, draw some circles. And then step 2, draw the rest of the fucking owl. And that's kind of what, yeah. So it always makes me chuckle.
Stay married
Same
to
thing
your
like
job
that.
so your wife is your mistress. Okay.
Wait, oh, I was like, did I write that? I hope I didn't.
No,
Okay,
no.
good.
That's
Yeah,
great.
if you don't own a Bugatti, why are you even trying, sir?
I couldn't pick a Bugatti out of a lineup. Like I couldn't care less about like designer cars.
It's like working out. Guys love to be like 300 pounds and jacked, but the only thing that attracts is other guys. Same as supercars.
Yeah. Same. Okay. Dread level 7. Begin to practice pickup artistry. Learn how to approach pretty women and hold an attractive conversation.
That's the
like,
catch and release I was talking to you about later. Like I said, this language
yes.
is clunky here. It's been a few years since then.
Okay.
Yeah,
Basically,
this is where it gets kind of hand wavy. I should warn your audience now.
basically a way to work on your game so that you can use it to either save your relationship or when you eventually break up, you're not starting from square one. Like I don't know how to date.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, 8. Actually, I think 8 was okay. Where it's, but you know what? I'll let you keep going.
If you put in the proper work, been able to have charismatic interactions with the women around you, eventually your wife will see it for herself. The concept of pre-selection is strong here. A husband hitting on the waitress in front of her is a display of lower value and social autism. A girl walking up to her husband and having a flirty conversation shows value. This step cannot be forced, and it is the culmination of the attractive behaviors and qualities that you've built up to at this
This is
point.
here for a specific reason. Because a lot of guys were like hitting, they'd take the family out to dinner and they'd hit on the waitress as like a way to, see, honey, I could replace you with like Beth over here. And you're like, dude, all you're doing is embarrassing your family. Stop doing that.
Aw.
So the joke
I'm gonna
was,
give her a big tip.
yeah, so the joke was hitting on the waitress at Applebee's is low value, but having the waitress hit on you at Applebee's is higher value. And that's the pre-selection thing.
Okay.
And that's the idea, is that you make yourself so you've become naturally charming.
Try to get the
attractive.
waitress to hit on you.
Yeah, well, not trying to, but it should happen because you're naturally a charming guy. You're naturally flirty, and a girl may want to flirt back with you, and that's fine. Not necessarily a waitress, but that's an example, right?
Or a bartender.
Usually it ends up being something like a friend of the family at a barbecue, or the other wives start showing interest in like small things.
Yeah.
It's not even that they're trying to sleep with you. It's just that they're showing an interest and they're being more warm.
They're feeling you. Yeah.
And for a lot of girls, like they may have remembered you being such a bitch for the longest time. They don't see you becoming attractive because they have like their own version of husband goggles where they just see you as the fat fuck. But then all of a sudden, hey, Cindy, that hot chick that I hate at work, all of a sudden started liking him. What the fuck's up with that? And it kind of jostles the memory. Oh, right. I love the man. I forgot.
Yeah. Dread level 9. This is the linchpin. It is the time to speak plainly, but don't start issuing ultimatums. Instead, dread at this level is an implied, incredible, but still as yet unspoken threat. If it has
Yeah.
not worked before now, and you are approaching Athol K's option A or option B, you start fucking me like I need, or I am filing for divorce. Note, this is the end of a long process.
This is why I was writing the book, because this was the previous roadmap to dread. This step here is what they call a covert contract. A covert contract it was coined by Robert Glover. It's part of No More Mr. Nice Guy. A lot of like the getting rid of the simp pipe behavior stuff is part of it. A covert contract is where I do something with expectations of reciprocity from you, but we don't talk about the terms. And then what happens with those is either because the girl knows you're trying to clunkily manipulate her, or she just doesn't know. She ends up doing what she wants to do instead because, nobody's there to fill your dreams. And then it builds a cycle of resentment. So this is where it kind of went wrong. And after a couple guys started going through this, they noticed like, I never needed this step. And the guys who used the step kind of made things worse. So I do want to preface for your audience. What ended up happening here is actually something called a main event instead. And what that was the girl was always treating herself as better than the husband, very argumentative, very adversarial. And then usually after like the man's got options, he's slowly pulling away, but she's feeling attraction again and she wants to win him back. It ends up being what they call the mother of all comfort tests, where she wants commitment from him, but she doesn't know how to get it because things have been so dead for so long. And so she speaks covertly about it. And the running statement about it is, if there's no snot bubbles and crying, then it's not a main event. I'm not even joking. Like, I've had one. It's amazing. And a lot of guys think I'm joking, and then they get theirs.
Like an epic fight, an epic like.
Yeah,
ugh,
it's literally a fight or flight
fight.
response from the girl, and it comes at the with something else sometimes called hysteric bonding, which we talked about at the beginning, and that is literal adrenal response, fight or flight, a girl so worried about losing her man that she becomes like sexually aroused to the point that she's constantly sleeping him as a way to like keep him as like a last ditch effort. But it's a temporary thing. But I mean, I could talk about that part for hours, but that's generally what ends up happening here, as opposed to what he says, which is like, look, lady, fuck you or fuck me or fuck you, which doesn't work.
Right. Everybody loves obligatory sex.
Yeah. Oh, you basically get obligatory sex. And there's this guy, Archwinger. I love this guy. He wrote, every unhappy wife is like a great victim. And it was this exact story. This guy who did this, the fuck me or fuck you. And the wife was like, well, I like our lifestyle and I like our kids with the 2 family. So like once a month, she would kind of just sit there and take one for the team. And the guy was bragging about it. And the girl, she was like talking to him later where she was like, I just can't do it. Like it's hard. And he realized like psychologically, it's not the same intensity of an actual sexual assault, but it's the same sport. Just it's the Bush League version. If that, I'm trying not to, but yeah, it's the same psychological effect on a girl that a lot of this duty sex has. Is the same thing as when she's being violated. It's like a loss of agency.
Yeah.
And so we found like, even if you get this duty sex, all you're doing is psychologically damaging a woman so that the first chance she gets, she's going to screw you over. So we're not here to ruin 2 people's lives. So this is clearly not the way to go about it. But I mean, that was after I wrote this, so I haven't had a chance to update it. I never even thought about it till you brought it up. So that's on my to-do list.
I'm just reading this very outdated blog. Like,
yeah.
Dread level 11, get a girlfriend or a mistress and start having sex like you were meant to have.
Yeah, this and the big reason I don't like this one was the same reason. For a lot of guys, they were asking, like, how do I have an affair? How do I cheat on a girl? How do I get a mistress? And if you have to ask, you're not ready. Like the guys who ended up doing this, and there is a few, they've had like side pieces, and if for some reason it helped their marriages. It's very weird outlying cases though. But they didn't need anybody's advice. At that point, they knew what they had to do. So it was actually better if we just get rid of it, because all it's going to do is encourage guys to nuke their marriages for no reason.
True. Okay, and Dread level 12, open cheating.
Yeah, this is just fan fiction. Nobody's ever made it this far. This is one of those, fuck you, bitch, I'm an alpha male, Bugatti shit. So
this is hate level.
Pretty much. But yeah, like you could see, there was always like hints of it, but it kind of works itself out over time. It just sucks that it doesn't anymore, because it makes a lot of clicks. Yeah, fuck.
It is interesting though, because it lets people know, like, okay, like you see the stages of a bad relationship, and people can identify with that. Be like, oh wow, there's a way out of this, or at least like I'm not the only one, or like here's how bad it's gotten, or you know.
Oh, dude, the fact that everybody goes through it is something people find comforting almost. Like, everybody will complain about some crazy situation. They always think it's unique, and then 5 guys will let them know, yeah, I was there 3 months ago. Here's what I did. And they all generally do the same things, and they get similar results. And it gives guys a certain comfort knowing that, oh, okay, so it's not that special. It's just relationship problems, human race problems. But yeah, so that's like, I do want to specify, it's a living document, right? So guys have to practice this stuff and replicate the stuff. And if it doesn't work, it eventually gets, cut from collective memory, and the good stuff sticks around. And that's another part of the praxeology. It's the replication, which is why everybody always refers to it as a science, but it's not really a science. It's just if things work, they replicate. If they don't work, then they kind of go away. And you saw a great example of that right there. Stuff that used to be true, we found out wasn't, and then we just change it. Or we remember to change it eventually.
Yeah, it's
Jesus.
like you figure out what you really value and then how to get it from where you are.
Yeah, and it's not guesswork. Guy will actually try it. He goes, nope, didn't work. Another guy tries it. Nope, definitely didn't work. And then, you get rid of it. So I like that. It lets you know you don't have all the answers. Nobody's ever going to be perfect. There's always something new to learn. And then that's why I ended up being the guy who, like, treats it like a nerd, where, like, most people are fixated on Warhammer 40K, and I'm, like, hooked on, like, red pill relationship stuff.
What, like, gives you the most joy about what you do?
Dude. The hearing. So guys know all the memes, right? They know how to say the wall and this. And guys will repeat a lot of the talking points back to you. But then once they actually click, it's hilarious, because they'll explain the exact talking point of something. Like genuine desire. The idea of getting genuine desire from a girl. She'll crawl through broken glass if she's really into you. And then they'll describe the thing. And I'm like, you mean like this catchphrase you've been using for the last 6 months? And then they just realize, like, all these little memes actually have, like, a psychological backing to them, and then to watch them make the connection between the stuff that they talk about and the stuff that they're actually doing is pretty good. And the other one is, oh boy, this one is going to be cover your ears, children. Guys who try something sexually assertive that they never would have dreamed of a year ago. Case in point, a lot of my Patreon community, we had like a running gag. It's like, just for fun, come on your wife's tits. And like, why do you want to? It's like, just try it. And then,
Why not?
But here's the thing. And 5 guys tried it and they realized, like, they were all worried, like, oh, maybe she's going to do this. Maybe she's going to do that. Nothing happened. Nobody got mad. She gave him a little shit. Why in the hell did you do that? And then they'd give lines kind of
Why'd
like,
you waste this perfectly good cum?
well, it's like, yeah, you're wresting my hair and all this stuff. And the guy's like, dude, it's your fault, right? She goes, what? He goes, yeah, if you weren't so hot, I wouldn't want to do all this degenerative shit. So you really need to start eating. Let's get you some donuts.
It's a compliment.
Yeah. And so you realize, and then the guys realized the only thing that was holding them back from like a very healthy sex life was just their own worry about things that are just never going to happen.
Yeah.
And so when you see, it's little things, right? That's the smallest victory ever, but it makes such a big difference to a guy. And it's just nice to see like a marriage going from 5 to 10.
And that is
I even had a little
small
part in that.
risk. Like that's like a good example of a thing to do. It's like, okay, you're not just gonna go and come on somebody's face out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's like a wife, obviously, or at least
Yeah.
a girl you're sleeping with. You're not just some stranger. I should specify.
It just sounds like a typical New York City subway ride to me, Like,
Oh, that's fair enough. That's right.
that's why you gotta.
I mean, whatever. Maybe he was the guy I was talking to.
No, but that's really cool. You feel like you can really help people, and like, okay, you're not too old or been with the person too long to take little risks and try new things.
And yeah, a lot of guys had that. Like married, they had the kids. The wife kind of had postpartum depression and that, and they're like, that was them at the start of the year, completely sexually denied and frustrated and angry and irritated. Now it's at the point that, the kid's playing over by the mat. We got 3 minutes. Let's go. And just little things like that. I like it. I don't care about $1 million this and alpha male that. It's just a little guy carving out happiness in his own life. Like, what more could you want, really?
Yeah.
Or like the other guy said, why even bother getting married? I'm like, I don't know. If you want to. A relationship is nice. I don't know about you, but it seems that people are kind of designed to get together in some kind of monogamous fashion. Just go with your instincts on this one.
What you're doing is really amazing because I think like just men are largely undervalued in society right now. Like
that's an
everything,
understatement.
like everything you're saying, all the traits that women actually love about men are being just degraded and shamed, and every strength that a man had is now being called like toxic masculinity. And
I hate that
it's
term.
it's like these traits are. It's like they're trying to breed them out of dudes. It's very scary to see. And I feel like there are not enough resources for men to go to because a lot of men don't want to go to therapy, or they think like self-help is gay. And there's you have to.
They're right. They're absolutely right.
You have
like,
to
that's
do
not,
it
that's
the right
problem.
way to reach men. And I really think that's what you're doing.
Yeah. And that's why I have to slather it in so much like casual misogyny.
Yes, of course.
But that's funny too. So here's the funny thing too. A lot of guys like to hear me talk to you now. We sound rather affable. We get along. People would think we've been drinking buddies for years. You see me on Twitter and I'm a fucking asshole.
Well, it's
But
easier.
yeah.
It's easier to be like a funnier and an asshole. I'm
Well,
more
I don't
of
know
an
if you
asshole on
noticed, but that's
Twitter,
the only
too.
time engagement happens is when people are like, "Oh, dude, what a dick." That's how I started getting followers. I'm like, fair enough. I'll lead them to here. We'll be nice when we're actually doing work.
Yeah, Twitter's supposed to be fun. Cool.
I mean, it is kind of fun. That's my big thing now, getting Spurgs to freak out. I had some guy, Abu American, he's like, I have 3 wives. I'm the alpha male. I made one joke. He was been on my ass threatening jihad for like 2 weeks.
3 blind
I'm like, dude,
wives.
your wives must be running roughshod over you if like some asshole in Canada can get you this riled up, man.
Yeah, it's fun to trigger people. What's coming up for you, Ryan? What are your goals for 2023, or what are you working on? Where can people find you, follow you, etc.?
All right. Well, finding me, the easiest one is YouTube. That's Ryan Stone, like YouTube/C/Ryan Stone. That's the easy one. Amazon, until Saturday, I've given fuck files out for free on Kindle. When you grab a copy of Praxeology, Volume 1's out there. I just finished the book after Christmas, so I'm recording the audiobook. I'll have that out by March. I always like doing it in my own reader's voice.
Okay, cool.
And then after this, I got to get to work on volume 2, which is going to be Dread, the stuff we just talked about, but, less clunky and more refined. Been a couple years of research since then, which would be nice. And then beyond that, like, I fucking hate the Manosphere. I hate it so much that I've also made a gaming channel just so when I finally exit, I'll have something else to do. That's Digital Ryan. And that's where a lot of the guys that we've been working with are now, they've got their, love lives and that under control. And then they just go there to relax and have fun because, to be fair, there's so much woke shit everywhere. It's hard just to be like a normal guy and enjoy things anymore. So it's my little attempt at doing that.
Yeah, you should watch Friday Night Tights. That's all we talk about, like the geeks and gamers, like the woke takeover of all things culture, gaming, movies, TV.
Well, I got to add another one because I got masculine geek, but I'll add you guys. What'd you call it again?
It's every Friday. It's called Friday Night Tights, and it's on Nerdrotic's YouTube channel.
Oh,
they work with geeks and gamers, which is like, I feel like you would love them.
That'll be good. I like it. I remember I've seen a bunch of his videos. It was always kind of neat. He was like the stereotypical, like Jeremy the Quartering, the bearded guy who hated Captain Marvel.
Yep. Yeah, he used to own a comic book store and moved from California to Texas. Like, very interesting story. Ex-felon. Cool. Very cool guy. All the things.
Yeah, but that's going to be it. And to be fair, that's all going to fill up a lot of time. And then we always have, I guess I should make 2 podcasts. The first one is Red Morning. That's mine. I do it Saturday, 9:00 in the morning on the Ryan Stone channel. And that's where I go like deep dive into all of this stuff. I used to be an instructor at Fleet School, so they're almost set up like lesson plans as opposed to a guy just running his mouth into the microphone. And then Rule Zero, which is 11:30 on Saturdays. That's with Rollo Tomasi, myself, Troy Francis. There's like a huge group. John Fitch, you guys remember from the UFC? He's on there too. There's like a big group of us. We always check those out. It's kind of like the All-Star game, the Globetrotters versus the Washington Capitals, where everybody kind of gets together who's been dealing with their own parts of sexual strategy, and then we talk about current topics. It's pretty popular too, so.
Cool.
And that's the easiest ways to find us.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you, by the way, for having me. You've been a very gracious host. You're a pleasant one to talk to. Your chat is full of like wonderful people, no autism, and that's rare.
They're the best. They're the best.
They are.
Smarter. They're smarter than me. They're better than me. They know the answers when I can't think of names. They always know. They're the best.
Yeah. But yeah, just thank you. Heartfelt.
Yes. Aw.
I knew you'd get it.
We learn the lessons of those who have gone before us.
Yeah. And it's nice to have somebody on a cast that's funnier than me. That's always pleasant.
Aw. This was so fun. I'll have to have you back, Ryan, for sure.
Anytime,
Maybe you could come on Simpcast. Oh my God.
Simps. I'm not.
My all-girls show. That would be fun.
Oh, wait. You have Brittany Venti on that one, don't you?
Yeah.
Dude, can I give her a shout out here?
Yes, she's
I
great.
am a huge fan of her ever since she went on Andy Worski. Do you remember Andy Worski?
Yep.
He had him, it was her and Roosh V, like the pickup artist one, and she embarrassed the shit out of him on that. And I've been a fan of hers ever since that. And all she had to do was bake some like a tube of cookies to make him look like an idiot. And I was just like, she's always good in my books. I'll never have a mean word to say about her.
She's so honest. She's so cool. She's like a breath of fresh air. She's fun. All right. Thanks, Ryan. Thank you to the chat for your comments and questions, and we will see you next time.